A hand, smeared with blood, drags along the wall, leaving a trail that signals the conclusion of a fierce struggle. The staff that had once represented hope plummeted from above, broken into pieces and stripped of its former holiness. The priest of light, King, collapsed to his knees in surrender, the sole survivor amidst the barren remains of the battlefield. Overwhelmed by pain, he desperately seeks answers, questioning how everything could have turned out so disastrously. His anger burned toward the sky, as he blamed a follower of the light for a shocking act of treachery. The truth, once hidden, came to light in a startling revelation. The goddess of light, her demeanor now submissive, remained at the side of the victorious demon king. She defended her betrayal with a chilling calmness, insisting that she had only aligned herself with the side destined to triumph in a conflict where humanity stood no chance. The priest dismissed her justification, his voice booming as he accused her betrayal of being the only cause of their downfall. The demon king grinned slyly, flexing his fingers with a series of sharp cracks while mocking the helplessness of the solitary healer. With astonishing swiftness, he surged forward, unleashing a decisive and relentless attack against the last remaining opponent. The demon king relishes his triumph, a wicked gleam of amusement lighting up his eyes. With ease, he snatches the priest, the man's whole body fitting within his enormous hand. Pain erupted through the priest's world as the demon king's hold grew mercilessly stronger. In the last seconds of his life, memories raced through the priest's mind, culminating in a bitter realization of total defeat. With one last, powerful squeeze, the demon king destroys humanity's final hope. The devastating impact completely erases the priest, leaving no trace behind. All that could be seen on the empty earth was a streak of crimson, the only trace left behind by the legendary healer. As his awareness began to slip away, an enigmatic system window suddenly appeared before his eyes. He found himself confused and uncertain, struggling to comprehend how he could still be conscious after experiencing what should have been a final ending. A notification suddenly popped up on his screen, letting him know that he was being sent against his will to a location known as the Demon Altar. His abilities as a demon lord appeared with unexpectedly low numbers. A vivid red light flickered in his eye, signaling a profound transformation deep inside him. A large round stone slab lies flat on the earth, appearing tightly shut. A massive metal coffin appeared, intensifying the sense of foreboding that filled the scene. Yang King found himself standing at the center of a round room, encircled by numerous additional coffins. He notices the 10 coffins, and feeling uneasy, suspects that something is not right. A notification appeared, informing him that he had acquired additional demonic abilities. King wrestles with the bitter truth that he has transformed into the kind of person he once opposed. He questions whether this change might be the universe's way of punishing him. A coffin suddenly split apart, releasing a wave of ominous, shadowy energy that filled the air with unease. He recognizes the bitter twist of destiny, understanding that harnessing this dark power is his sole means of striking back at the angels. Driven by intense anger, he wholeheartedly embraces his transformation into a demon lord. As he steps forward, a system alert guides him toward the heart of the altar, signaling that he is about to re-enter the world of humans. As soon as someone set foot on the central sigil, a surge of blue energy burst forth, crackling violently through the air. The brilliant surge of energy leapt through the room, connecting with one of the tightly shut coffins. The chosen coffin began to tremble, its metal surface radiating a fierce light as powerful energy surged through it. A surge of energy persisted, forging a connection between the heart of the altar and the enigmatic vessel. A brilliant column of golden light erupted from the center of the altar, reaching skyward and illuminating everything around it. Encircled by overwhelming power, he silently promises himself that he will come back one day and ensure the angel of light faces consequences for her treachery. His crimson eyes, glinting with resolve, mark the start of his relentless pursuit of vengeance. A teenage boy stands in front of a simple, hastily made grave. He condemns the fallen for leaving his fellow soldiers behind. He expresses his frustration over not having an appropriate gravestone to mark the site. He turns his head as a voice he recognizes catches his attention. To his astonishment, who had already passed away, suddenly appeared before him. Upon witnessing Yang King standing before him, the man reacted with utter disbelief, unable to comprehend that Yang King was still alive. Verifies who he is. The man cannot hide his shock and sorrow. Yang King discovers that 5 years have gone by. The man wondered aloud about why King's abilities seemed so limited. A statue honoring the deceitful goddess of light rose majestically atop the edge of a cliff. As they traveled together, his friend revealed that people had begun to revere the angels, believing they had triumphed over the demons. Yang King dismissed the false story with a mocking grin, fully aware of what truly happened when the angel turned traitor. His friend changes the topic, proposing that they focus on celebrating his unexpected comeback rather than lingering on memories of what had happened before. He enthusiastically decides to celebrate by inviting King to a newly opened restaurant and insists on paying for the meal himself. King's gaze blazed with determination as he made it clear he would go directly to a dungeon. His friend nodded in agreement, but brought up the need for money, subtly alluding to how much things had changed during the last 5 years. The ex-priest stands in complete confusion, overwhelmed by the strange and unknown world surrounding him. He is shocked to discover that the dungeon entrance, which was once freely accessible, has now been transformed into a ticketed attraction for paying visitors. King's anger flared when he discovered the steep entry fee and the hefty portion of profits demanded, viewing the terms as nothing short of shameless exploitation. His friend points out that such high prices have already been the standard for the past 5 years. King, his temper flaring, surged forward as if ready to attack, but his friend quickly intervened, restraining him and cautioning him against causing any trouble. The friend launches into an explanation about the past, describing how a powerful mage locked away the dungeons following a massive war. As he spoke further, he explained that the seals had gradually lost their strength, which enabled monsters to once again endanger the human world. As a result, numerous adventurers ventured into the dungeons, striving to control the growing numbers of monsters. He shares a painful memory from his past, describing how his entire team was lost in a devastating event that left him as the only one alive. His friend mourned the loss of the old days when adventurers could come and go without restrictions, noting that the current treatment they endured was harsher than anything bandits had ever inflicted. He points out that after the angels were believed to have won, the guilds started growing careless, treating dungeons more like sources of easy money than actual challenges. King expressed gratitude for receiving the ticket, but his friend dismissed the thanks, reminding King of the many times he had supported his teammates in the past. Once they were deep inside the dungeon, his friend, unable to hold back any longer, questioned the hurried pace, clearly curious about the intentions behind King's actions. Begins formulating a strategy to restore his lost power. A cautionary message materialized, alerting everyone to the approaching threat. From the darkness deep within the dungeon, the two men notice a mysterious silhouette beginning to appear. A massive scorpion, labeled as a level 1 minion, appeared on the scene. His companion moves ahead with bold assurance, preparing to confront the strange being. The scorpion lunged forward, its stinger aimed with deadly precision, but the friend managed to dodge just in time, escaping serious harm. The scorpion's tail whipped forward with deadly speed, targeting a vulnerable spot in hopes of landing a decisive strike. The friend raised his shield just in time, steadying himself as the force of the blow crashed against it. The scorpion lunged forward, striking with such force that the friend was knocked off balance and fell backward. The friend regained composure and got ready to strike back. King watches as his friend swiftly defeats a weak monster, gaining a modest boost in experience points. A message appeared, indicating that King received a portion of the experience points from the defeat. His friend gestured, urging him to draw even more monsters closer while getting ready to unleash a powerful attack that would cover a large area. As their plan succeeds, the screen becomes crowded with messages announcing experience gains and newly acquired loot. Shattered bodies of the vanquished scorpion creatures now covered the ground. King beams with pride as he reveals that he has reached a new level, earning admiration from his friend, who was amazed by how quickly he advanced. A pop-up window appeared, announcing that he had gained a new ability known as Soul Tremor, which could instill fear. Flexed his fingers with a sharp crack, silently vowing to reveal the strength he had just acquired. His friend observes with anticipation, his eyes bright as he awaits the moment when the renowned demon transformation technique will be revealed. King struck the earth with his palm, releasing a powerful surge of energy that swept across the dungeon. In response to his unspoken command, the demons lurking within the shadows to his side, ready to follow his lead. A burst of golden light exploded upward from the floor of the dungeon. The growing energy surged, splitting the earth beneath it with powerful cracks. From within the blazing abyss, a giant, menacing claw slowly rises. His friend watched with wide eyes as the astonishing scene played out before them. 3 figures shaped like humans, but bearing the features of scorpions suddenly appeared, exuding an intimidating and ominous presence. Studied the scorpions intently, observing how they could alter their bodies to take on human-like shapes. His friend gazes in awe at the remarkable show of strength unfolding before him. Yang King gave an order, outlining a specific goal for everyone to follow. The scorpion warriors charged deeper into the dungeon's shadows. His friend comes up with a smart plan designed to make gaining levels much easier. His friend expresses disappointment, explaining that the way fees are set up now causes them to lose money every time they attempt a dungeon. Without warning, a shadowy object streaked by, yet King stayed composed, prepared to confront the enemy leader. The friend can hardly believe their eyes as they witness a fierce scorpion minion being defeated in a single, swift moment. The vanquished minion's head offered an apology, confessing that it had already warned the boss and admitting it stood no chance against such overwhelming strength. Lifted his gaze, remaining perfectly calm as he acknowledged that he had never counted on his feeble underlings to succeed. He now faced the dungeon's ultimate challenge, a gigantic mole beast looming over the battlefield, its defeated followers lying motionless at its feet. A notification appeared, revealing that the powerful foe before them was known as the Mole King, a boss classified as type. King's ally unsheathes his sword, positioning himself at the front of the group, ready to defend the king and spearhead the assault. Was determined to go first, volunteering to put himself in danger as a distraction so his companion could seize the opportunity to attack. King raised his hand in a bold challenge, provoking the boss and signaling that the true battle was about to start. The furious Mole King charged ahead, clamping its huge jaws together with astonishing quickness. King calmly revealed his plan to paralyze the creature, leaving his friend momentarily speechless and surprised by the sudden strategy. Both adventurers seemed tiny in comparison, as they bravely confronted the enormous boss. King, showing no fear, dashes straight toward the spot where the monster is coming down. He narrowly avoids the creature's bite, moving just quickly enough to slip past its lunging jaws. His red eye glowed intensely, radiating energy while he activated the soul tremor ability he had just learned. The attack landed perfectly, leaving the Mole King reeling backward, dazed and bewildered by the unexpected blow. Taking advantage of the moment, he urgently calls out to his friend, signaling that it is time to begin the counterattack. His companion rushed ahead with unwavering determination, directing his sword toward the exposed creature. He drives his sword forcefully into the creature's thick skin, delivering a powerful and final strike. A system message announces that his soul tremor ability did not succeed, while the Mole King regains its awareness with a furious roar. The furious creature wasted no time, plunging beneath the earth and leaving the dungeon floor cracked and broken behind it. Both men found themselves gazing down into the enormous, shadowy crater left behind after the monster broke free. His friend observed their efforts and doubted their chances, wondering aloud how victory could even be possible given their current situation. Yang King, with an air of confidence, claims that his victory was simply the result of striking the boss's rare weak points by chance. He rapidly devises a different strategy, fully aware that the boss now sees him as the main danger. He signals to his friend to get ready for a surprise attack, confident that he can avoid the creature's assault on his own. His companion admires his clever approach, realizing that he carries the insight of someone with years of experience. Modestly revealed that his strategies were picked up through careful observation of top-tier adventurers. He squints, feeling certain the boss is preparing to strike. King darted through the dungeon, skillfully weaving around the falling debris. His friend lunged ahead, gripping his weapon in preparation for battle. The friend delivered a powerful blow to the enormous beast, leaving a visible wound behind. The sudden emergence of the Mole King from beneath the earth startled both of them. The Mole King lunged forward, delivering a fierce swipe with tremendous strength. The friend manages to shield against the blow, yet the force behind it nearly overwhelms them. The friend manages to dodge just in time, narrowly escaping a powerful attack that could have caused serious harm. King encouraged his friend to take advantage of the boss's dazed state and defeat him quickly. The friend launched into action once more, their resolve stronger than before. The Mole King slipped beneath the soil, vanishing from sight. A notification appeared, announcing their triumph and granting them both experience points and rare treasures as rewards. The initial drop acts as a strong barrier, capable of absorbing incoming attacks and then releasing the stored energy. The next item was a lightweight dagger, designed to strike quickly and sometimes deliver an additional cut. King's companion could hardly believe the impressive quality of the loot, growing increasingly convinced that King had selected this dungeon with a particular purpose in mind. Yang King disclosed that he had anticipated encountering a lesser form of a powerful boss and had crafted his plan around this prediction. He presents the available loot to his friend, who quickly chooses the shield with excitement, which leaves King to claim the dagger. King's companion looked at him skeptically, clearly puzzled by the ex-priest's decision to wield a close-range weapon. Despite this doubt, King admitted that he had always secretly wished to fight up close, embracing the role of a melee combatant. King assured his friend that selling the materials would allow him to repay the debt, yet his friend's uncertain expression revealed lingering doubts. A sudden transition reveals a clenched fist crashing onto a desk, the forceful gesture radiating intense frustration. He approaches the guild administrator, his anger flaring as he discovers that the guild has taken control of the market and is taking advantage of the adventurers. The administrator brushed off their concerns about the pricing, speaking in a patronizing tone that made it clear she did not take their complaints seriously. His friend made an effort to soothe him, cautioning that provoking the influential guild could lead to trouble. Locked eyes on the administrator, determination flickering as a strategy began to take shape in his mind. The administrator goads him, showing no sign of fear about what might happen next. A group of enforcers made their entrance, making it clear just how much power and control the administrator held over the situation. They choose to walk away, opting not to face the situation head-on at this moment. Intercepts the group, insisting that they make amends for what he believes is an insult. His friend reacts with surprise to the demand, suddenly aware of the possible consequences. His focused look suggested there was something he was keeping to himself. Shrouded in darkness, a building looms silently, hinting at what the group might do next. Inside a secluded apartment, a group of men dressed in suits kept watch while their boss sat at the table, indulging in a disturbingly lavish feast. He observes a news segment that cautions explorers about the rising number of people vanishing inside dungeons. One of the employees wondered aloud to himself why their superior made mysterious trips to this isolated location every week. The men inside remained unaware as a shadowy, menacing force wrapped itself around the whole building. The focus shifts closer to the leader's plate, exposing just how disturbing his meal truly is. The leader enjoys his food, showing no sign of discomfort despite how gruesome it is. A sharp, unexpected sound echoed from outside, cutting their conversation short. The boss quickly directed one of the subordinates to investigate the disturbance. Muttering under his breath, the subordinate walks out, thinking he will see nothing but a few wandering animals. His grumbling abruptly stops when he comes across a car that has been severely wrecked, its hood crushed inward. The frightened subordinate spun around and saw King watching him with an icy stare, making it clear who had caused the situation. The subordinate is quickly pulled back inside the apartment, his shoes scuffing loudly against the floor as he struggles. His co-workers stared in bewilderment, while their companion was dragged into the shadowy depths of the doorway. One of the men swivels around, fear suddenly spreading across his face as his eyes grow wide with realization. King's soul tremor ability washed over the man, freezing him in place as an intense wave of terror gripped his entire being. Gripped his newly acquired dagger and vaulted over the unmoving guard, ready to deliver a swift attack. With a powerful swing, he strikes with his weapon, eliminating the danger in an instant. Chaos filled the room as swiftly took down the last of the guards with ease. A figure hurtles through the window, breaking the glass into countless shards as it crashes toward the earth beneath. The administrator, overwhelmed by fear, frantically attempts to call forth his own abilities. King, showing no sign of being impressed, swiftly narrowed the gap between him and his opponent, preparing to strike with a decisive finishing move. Skillfully dodges the administrator's strike, his dagger slicing through the air with quick, shining movements. The administrator, overwhelmed by panic, attempts to command his subordinates to launch an attack, yet chaos has already consumed the room. Seized his adversary's arm and released the chilling force of his soul tremor ability. The administrator becomes immediately engulfed by an intense surge of fear that freezes his thoughts and leaves him utterly powerless. Caught in the grip of the spell, the man's hand suddenly betrays him, leaving him powerless and overwhelmed by fear. After swiftly overcoming the guards, King remains alone and triumphant, surrounded by the evidence of his rapid attack. He shifted his focus to a nearby closed door, an intense feeling of unease washing over him as if something ominous lingered beyond it. The weighty door slowly swings on its hinges, exposing the origin of the menacing presence. His face grows tense as realization dawns on him, revealing just how terrifying the reality before him truly is. Within the chamber, he uncovers the tragic end that befell the vanished adventurers, which leaves no doubt that his worst fears have come true. A gruesome mound of skulls dominates the scene, starkly displaying the leader's insatiable and terrifying hunger. Stepped forward to challenge the leader, boldly claiming that he survived by draining the lives of innocent people, much like a parasite would. The leader let out a mocking laugh, eyeing the inexperienced adventurer with disdain and boldly declaring his intent to turn him into his next victim. A chilly grin spread across young King's face as he brought up the commitment the man had previously given. A sly smile spread across his face as he silently promised himself to take back all that had been stolen from him. The administrator, consumed by fury, conjured 2 swirling columns of fire and made it clear that suffering awaited anyone who opposed him. He releases a surge of intense flames, directing a scorching attack straight at his opponent. King vaulted through the window, skillfully weaving past a barrage of blazing fireballs without breaking a sweat. From high above, he swoops downward with a dagger ready in his grasp, his gaze glowing fiercely with an otherworldly, sinister energy. The administrator's earlier confidence vanishes, leaving behind only the chilling fear that sends cold sweat down his face. He darts forward so fast he becomes a blur, his dagger slicing the air in swift red arcs. The administrator stared in disbelief, remembering that had only signed up as a low-level healer, just at level 1. His eyes grew wide with shock, unable to believe what he was seeing, as the blade raced toward him faster than he thought possible. The dagger unleashed its unique power, allowing him to deliver a swift second blow without delay. The administrator gazes downward, stunned as the realization dawns that the battle has already concluded. He reels backward, the evidence of the quick and accurate strike clear on his expression. Offered a sarcastic compliment about the man's strength, suggesting that he might be qualified to serve under him. The administrator, overwhelmed by rage and embarrassment, seethes at the patronizing proposal. He struggles to gather what little power he has left, his trembling hand sparking with wild, uncontrollable energy. Regarded the scene with icy detachment, his red eye betraying not a trace of worry. A sudden force erupted, scattering fragments through the air in every direction. A dark silhouette towers prominently under the faint glow of a crescent moon. A sphere covered in golden spikes emitted an eerie, glowing light. A massive demon with a pink hue swooped down from above, catching the attention of a pair of onlookers. The demon appeared taken aback, clearly not anticipating such a weak adversary. The demon expresses sorrow over a tragic mishap that occurred with its former host. Yin King himself, channeling the dark energy needed to unleash a forbidden technique. The demon's gaze sharpens with intense concentration. King released a surge of crimson energy, filling the air with its powerful glow. The demon stands unwavering, convinced that the assault will have no effect on it. The demon jeered at him, ridiculing his struggle to match the relentless barrage of blows. Yang King stands composed, his gaze steady while a surge of pink energy speeds in his direction. He soared upward just in time, escaping a powerful blast that shattered the ground beneath him. His sharp red eyes sparkled with determination, while he himself for what he would do next. A roaring inferno, shaped like a monstrous mouth, devoured the chamber he had only moments ago fled. The demon's merciless flames swept outward, devouring everything and everyone unfortunate enough to stand in their way. Quickly recognizes the danger of remaining in the confined area, and makes up his mind to relocate the fight to a different location. He dashes toward the rooftop, yet the demon hurls its weapon after him in relentless pursuit. The demon pursued relentlessly, certain that its unique fire would track down its target regardless of how far he fled. A surge of hellfire erupted from the creature, accompanied by its arrogant claim that the searing flames would consume everything they touched. The demon glided high above, its path marked by a lingering aura that sent chills through the atmosphere. The demon descended from above, demanding to know where could be found and wondering aloud about her supposed cleverness. A sharp, gold-colored missile shot swiftly across the sky, its pointed edges gleaming as it raced onward. Manages to dodge just in time as a luminous, razor-edged weapon whizzes past him. The demon's strike narrowly misses Yang King, but still leaves a visible wound. The demon gathered its power and released a focused surge of energy outward. Is hit by the demon's blow and staggers backward from the force. Yin King soared high above the ground, skillfully dodging yet another incoming strike. The demon warned of revenge in response to the harm it had suffered. The demon sprang forward, asserting its claim over King. A wave of blazing pink flames rushed ahead, consuming and destroying all that stood before it. King raced frantically through the dense forest, dodging falling branches and upheaved earth as sinister energy ripped the surroundings to shreds. A powerful explosion tears through the forest, scorching everything in its path and reducing the area to smoldering ruins. He plunged off the sharp cliff edge, desperate to escape the unyielding chase. When he reached the ground below, he spun around to confront the one following him, determination unwavering in his eyes. The demon touched down softly behind its target, clearly entertained by the sight of the prey cornered with nowhere left to run. With no escape routes remaining, the demon stands its ground, certain of triumph, as it gathers all its strength for a final, devastating attack. From high in the sky, the creature releases its most powerful move, a fierce blast known as the Inferno Cannon that rains destruction below. A massive burst of pink energy detonated in the ravine, tearing apart the ground with its powerful force. The demon surveyed the scene, fully convinced that no trace of its rival remained. The demon recalled how its last host had suffered from a severe illness. The demon suddenly reacts with surprise to an unforeseen event. With a sudden, powerful force, the demon was yanked downward. A weapon with a golden blade whirled swiftly across the sky. The weapon collided with an object, hitting it with great power. The demon realizes it is trapped in an awkward situation. The demon questions internally whether the circumstances might be more complicated than they first appeared. The demon could not understand how King had managed to survive. The demon had a feeling that had already foreseen the ambush. The demon suddenly becomes aware that it has fallen into a cleverly set trap. The demon stared in disbelief, realizing that shadowy chains had suddenly wrapped around its body, holding it tightly in place. Took control of the demon, making it clear that he was in charge. The demon's expression reveals both uncertainty and terror. King commanded the Mole King to set the demon free. Yang King ordered the demon to hand over all of its treasures. The demon obeyed and handed over a shield along with some weapons. A vast pile of gold bars sparkled, drawing the eye with their irresistible shine. King carefully examined the reclaimed treasures, considering where each item had come from. He carefully estimates just how much the gold bars are worth, realizing their tremendous value. Tightened his grip on the chain that restrained the demon. A sudden warning lit up the system display, signaling that the prisoner he had just captured was close to escaping restraint. The demon curled its lips into a sly grin, gathering dark energy as it itself to challenge the authority of its recent master. The creature let out one last, furious surge of power, its roar echoing with defiant rage. However, its assault is abruptly halted, and its expression twists with surprise and incredulity. A surge of red light burst upward from beneath the ground, rapidly overwhelming the rebellious demon and putting an end to its resistance. He advanced to level 3 and gained access to Lord Privilege, an ability that allowed him to benefit from the experience earned by his servant. Yang King gazed at the fallen demon, determination in his eyes, knowing that his scheme was just beginning. He gathered shadows around him, focusing their power as he aimed to bring the creature back to life, determined to make it obey his every command. Energy surged around him as he managed to trap the demon's soul, securing it in one of the open spaces reserved for captured spirits. The demon, brought back to life, lowered itself in a respectful gesture, transformed into a level 3 servant and prepared to carry out any order given to him. Tightened his grip, coming to the conclusion that seeking out unregulated dungeons was the only way to avoid the influence of the dishonest guilds. He glanced at his newly acquired demon servant and instructed it to guide him toward the other monsters' hideouts. The setting moves to an apartment complex where his friend prepares for an upcoming guest. His friend opens the door and finds a delivery man standing there, holding a surprisingly large package. He wrestles with the unexpectedly weighty box, questioning whether someone might be playing a trick on him. As he opens it, he finds a formidable shield, several piles of gold bars, and a handwritten note. King had included a note detailing the purpose of the gifts and expressing his willingness to assist with future dungeon adventures. King's friend can hardly believe his eyes, filled with excitement as he sees that King has successfully reclaimed the shield from the rogue guild. Amazement fills him as he gazes at the heavy bar of pure gold, unable to believe the immense fortune he now possesses. Having received a generous payment for his work, the delivery man leaves, rejoicing in his unexpected wealth. The delivery man, whose true identity as a level 3 demon minion was now known, informed his master that he had completed the delivery successfully. Gave a nod to show he had received the report. However, his face grew somber as he raised a fresh worry. Seated atop his enormous Mole King, he turned to his demon servant, silently demanding an explanation for their selected path. His attendant guided him into a magnificent temple devoted to the god of light, causing him to wonder about the motive behind selecting this particular place. The demon reveals that the angel's immense power comes from these very temples, and if even one is destroyed, her strength will be reduced. Recognizing the advantage in the proposal, Yang King accepted the idea and began making arrangements to secretly enter the sacred location. He instructs the Mole King to activate its stealth abilities, choosing to keep it concealed as a secret advantage until the perfect moment arises. At the same time, the destruction left by King's earlier attack comes to light, revealing nothing but smoldering debris where the building once stood. The head of the guild's treasury stormed in, his anger evident as he urgently sought information about his brother. He was soon met with the devastating news that his brother had been utterly destroyed. Confused and angered by the strange and intense magic at play, the guild official demanded that every registered adventurer be thoroughly investigated. The guild official fixates on the missing treasure, his anxiety over the angel's potential anger outweighing any grief for his brother's passing. Within the temple's shadowy interior, King found himself face-to-face with a corrupted light knight of the 3rd rank. With ease, he overcomes a group of tainted guards, earning a modest boost in experience. The final remaining knight extends an opportunity for him to give up, reminding him of the loyalty he once held for the forces of good. King dismissed the offer with a scornful sneer, then swiftly struck out at the unyielding guard. With lightning speed, his sword sliced through the air, neatly severing the knight's head in one powerful motion. He spins around without hesitation, his dagger poised to strike the following guard who remains unaware of the danger. His single red eye ignited with intensity as he activated his soul tremor ability, sending a wave of terror that rooted his enemy in place. The knight, overwhelmed by fear, was hurled backward as its armor shimmered with a weakening magical force. Watching as their fellow soldiers collapsed on the battlefield, the commander quickly directed the surviving knights to launch a fierce assault in hopes of overpowering their opponent. He released a powerful surge from deep within, his red eye shining with a sinister energy. However, the knights' shields burst with light, breaking the spell and dispelling any trace of fear it tried to spread. Unfazed by the threat before him, he launches himself upward and comes crashing down toward the group of guards gathered below. The dagger struck true, effortlessly breaking through the knight's guard with a forceful precision. He continued his attack with a wide, powerful swing, his sword moving so quickly it seemed to vanish as it struck the soldiers clad in armor. Forced his way past the guards, moving like a storm as each of his attacks landed with lethal accuracy. Frustration boiling over, the commander bellowed at his troops, compelling them to advance. Driven by fear of their commanding officer, the soldiers obeyed, their anxiety over his wrath outweighing any dread of the stranger before them. A level 3 elite corrupted light knight overseer stepped forward, prepared to enter the battle. The overseer fixates his gaze on his chosen opponent, readying himself to display his unmatched power. With a powerful motion, he brought his enormous axe downward, intent on defeating in one decisive strike. The overseer's armor radiated a brilliant, sacred light, while he himself to reveal the extent of his formidable power. With immense power, he brings down his axe, unleashing a shockwave that rips across the battlefield. The knight remains by himself, showing no remorse for having given up his comrades in order to reach his objective. Witnesses the merciless deed, realizing that the darkness of night surpasses even the terrors of demons. The scene shifts momentarily to his demon servant, Pondi, whose appearance is much less frightening in contrast. The assault has no effect, for Yang King stands unharmed, protected by the imposing presence of his giant mole king. A sly grin spreads across his face, as he waves his hand in a way that ridicules the overseer's unsuccessful effort. Infuriated by the provocation, the overseer silently promises to ensure the intruder will wish they had never entered the sacred temple. He lifted his weapon above his head, gathering every ounce of his strength for a powerful, decisive blow. The enormous axe swung downward with incredible speed, intent on destroying everything in its path. The overseer is quickly overpowered, his sense of control shattered as he faces an unexpected downfall. The setting moves to a narrow alley, where a man shrinks back in fear, horrified by the aftermath of a violent encounter. Overcome by fear, he begs desperately for mercy, his hope shattered by the merciless show of dominance before him. The guild official questioned the lone survivor, pressing them for details regarding an ex-member of the guild. He displayed a photograph featuring who was known to be his friend. The frightened man immediately realizes who is shown in the photograph. The level 4 assassin fixed his eyes with a threatening stare, insisting on finding out where his friend was. The memory of how quickly and violently his guild's tank had been overpowered haunted the man, intensifying his fear. Fearing for his safety, he hurriedly reveals the location, desperate to save himself. The official pretended not to understand, then with a frosty tone sent the informant away, satisfied that his goal had been met. The official's warm expression quickly disappears, giving way to a sinister smirk as he exposes his trickery. He reveals his trademark move, Magic Blade Hidden Heart, as his hand buzzes with a threatening surge of power. Taking one firm stride, he swiftly bridges the gap between himself and the trembling informant. The informant crashes into the wall with such force that he collapses, unable to move. A quick, decisive blow transforms the man's expression into one of utter astonishment and loss. After parting ways with the informant, the assassin calmly glances at his phone, his thoughts already shifting toward his main objective. The perspective shifts to the outside of his apartment, hinting that a threat is looming nearby. Within the room, heard a noise at his door and glanced over with a curious expression, wondering what had caused it. He pushes the door open, grinning as he incorrectly believes another package has arrived. The assassin from the guild offers a sly, almost menacing grin, signaling that he has identified his intended victim. Deep inside the temple, a commanding figure clad in thick armor occupies an ornate throne made of gold. He observes someone walking toward him from the distant edge of the room, standing alone. With his advancement to level 4, King moved confidently ahead, his eyes locked on the temple's ultimate adversary. Seated on his throne, the leader let out a dismissive scoff, his mind swirling with disbelief that someone had managed to slip past his highly skilled overseer. Responded to the belittling question with a sly grin, his hand moving through the air in a playful gesture as though he were snatching the words themselves. He gestures as if squashing an insect, making his contempt for the leader's challenge clear. He then nonchalantly inquires whether the leader had been talking about the knight who had already been defeated. With a swift movement of his hand, he hurled an object through the air, guaranteeing that the overseer would no longer pose a threat. The overseer's helmet slid noisily over the floor and finally rested at the base of the throne. The leader froze in shock, as it became clear that the intruder posed a much greater threat than he had initially believed. The furious leader tightened his hold on his sword, dark energy sparking around his fist, as he silently promised to reveal the full extent of his strength to Yang King. A system message reveals the appearance of Arbiter Argus, the level 22 boss, who stands up from his throne, glowing with an unsettling mix of holy and tainted light. Wasted no time, activating his soul tremor ability. His red eye glowed intensely as he focused the full force of his power on the commander's thoughts. Despite the terrifying aura pressing in, the commander's overwhelming strength enables him to stand unfazed, untouched by the force that would have frightened anyone else. The knight soared upward, his powerful legs launching him off the ground as his enormous sword to strike down on his adversary. King managed to dodge just in time, as a surge of sacred lightning crashed down, splintering the temple floor where he had stood moments before. The commander, showing no signs of mercy, swiftly swung their blade in a rapid horizontal arc. King skillfully deflects the attack using his dagger, causing a burst of sparks as the blades collide. The commander unleashed a powerful blow that launched King across the air. King lands gracefully, immediately sensing that this opponent's strength far surpasses anyone he has ever encountered. The commander's strength was unquestionable, sending him hurtling across the wide expanse of the temple floor. In the air, concentrated, forming a churning spiral of dark energy within his grasp. He focused his energy into his leg, unleashing a blazing kick that sent a powerful burst directly toward his rival. The commander lifted his sword with unwavering confidence, calling forth a brilliant shield of light that blocked the incoming strike. The infernal flames crashed against the sacred shield, setting off a dazzling burst of light. A surge of untamed energy rippled outward from the point of impact, ripping through the chamber with unstoppable force. As the haze gradually faded away, the commander remained resolute, though his flawless shield now lay in broken pieces. The knight stood in shock, struggling to understand how a simple, weak skill had managed to shatter his most powerful defense. His brief astonishment quickly vanished when a dark silhouette cast itself above him. In an instant, King materialized behind the commander, pressing his dagger firmly against the man's throat. The commander expressed doubt about King's methods, believing that they lacked fairness. Responded with an icy reminder, bringing up the time the goddess had turned against them. King's quick assault brought the commander to his knees, leaving him conquered. The weapon slipped from the fallen commander's weakening grasp. Driven by intense anger, the commander initiates a last-ditch assault. King reacts with astonishment upon witnessing the commander's unforeseen strength. The commander gathered a wave of energy, readying themselves to unleash a devastating strike. The commander gazes in awe as King demonstrates surprising powers of healing. The commander surged forward with relentless force, intent on bringing the battle to a decisive close. King responded by launching a forceful strike that arced upward. The commander summoned a surge of divine energy, silently pledging to burn his foe to ashes. He released his most powerful ability, sending out a dazzling burst of brilliant energy that lit up everything around him. Stands his ground without hesitation, steadying himself as he takes the powerful blow head-on. A shaft of light slices through the roof of the temple, soaring upward toward the sky without causing any damage. The commander gazes in complete shock, watching helplessly as his strongest assault vanishes into nothingness. He spun around in irritation, silently holding his guards responsible for the embarrassing defeat. Without warning, the commander's eyes widened as he realized who his opponent truly was. He remembered an event from long ago, feeling shocked that the person he thought was gone might still be living. A recollection emerges of a previous teammate suffering a violent attack at the hands of the Ruthless Jew Scorpion Guild. The commander recalls how the adventurer, feeling unjustly treated and desperate for justice, eventually confronted him during the tribunal. He recalls the moment when the victim was wrongly blamed and lost his adventurer title. At the same time, the real wrongdoer, a highly respected member of the elite guild, escaped any punishment for what he had done. The memory shows that it was the commander who handed down the dishonest judgment. The knight's eyes widened in disbelief as he realized that King was aware of both his history and the part he played in the tribunal. With a dismissive laugh, he claimed that the blessing of the goddess made ordinary adventurers helpless before their might. The commander gathered a tremendous surge of sacred energy, focusing it into an attack aimed so precisely that escaping it would be impossible. A surge of golden energy gathered around him, bursting forth in a powerful shockwave that threatened to destroy everything in its path. He conjures an enormous blade made of pure light, unleashing his most powerful light judgment ability. King moved with agility, skillfully dodging the powerful strike and making it clear that he would not be taken down so easily. The sacred blade plunged down from above, targeting the exact place he had occupied moments before. Immediately became aware of the overwhelming strength and inevitability of the approaching assault. He himself to respond to the inevitable strike by drawing upon one of his own special abilities. He called upon the Burning Time Shield, a protective ability that relied on consuming his own mana. The commander comes to understand the method used to endure his earlier assault. A brilliant shaft of golden light surged down from the sky. King remains unwavering, showing no fear even as the massive sword of light crashes down toward him. He lifted his hand, summoning a blazing shield of time to defend himself from the oncoming strike. The commander recognized King's impressive abilities, yet held firmly to his own sense of assurance. King gathered his strength, focusing intensely as he himself to strike back. The sacred blade began to fracture as it pressed against the intense force of his blazing temporal barrier. The sacred blade splintered and broke apart as Yang King's shield slammed against it with overwhelming power. The commander stared in disbelief, unable to comprehend the overwhelming strength displayed by the shield. The commander steadies themselves, preparing for the impending collision, while the shield remains steadfast and unbroken. King quickly seizes the opportunity that appears when his shield creates a gap in the opponent's defense. The commander could hardly believe that had managed to make it through the assault alive. Began outlining his plan, describing in detail how his shield possessed special characteristics that set it apart from ordinary ones. King himself to strike back against his opponent. King demonstrated an impressive display of strength by revealing a formidable new ability. Channeled the last traces of his mana into the powerful strike. The commander himself determined to withstand the approaching assault. A devastating surge of deep red energy bursts forth from him, overwhelming the commander in its path. The commander braces himself against the overwhelming force, barely managing to hold out as his defenses are stretched to their breaking point. Demonic energy swept over the battlefield, quickly overpowering the spot where the Holy Knight stood. The immense power of the counterattack proved too overwhelming for his shield, causing it to fracture and break apart completely. A powerful blast rips through the temple, sending the roof flying and leaving a wide opening that exposes the interior to the open sky. Amidst the charred remains, the commander slowly raises his gaze, his body battered but alive after narrowly escaping the explosion. He reluctantly acknowledges that possesses far greater strength than any other adventurer he has ever defeated. He brushes off his wounds, downplaying them as insignificant scratches he can manage without concern. A warm, golden glow surrounded the commander while he focused his energy on casting a healing spell, fully assured that he would regain his strength. His self-assured demeanor fades away, replaced by a growing sense of dread when he discovers that his abilities to heal are no longer working. Yang Qing's shadowy force wrapped itself around the commander's armor, tainting the purity of his sacred strength. The commander's eyes widened in shock as he discovered that his once powerful healing powers no longer worked at all. The searing, demonic energy kept tearing through his body, forcing anguished cries from him as the pain intensified from within. The knight gazed at his own hand with uncertainty, questioning whether the blow he received had left behind a hidden, weakening enchantment. Crushed by agony, the former powerful leader sinks to his knees, surrendering to his loss. With an icy demeanor, notes that this marks the knight's second time being compelled to kneel before him. He ridiculed the commander's lack of strength, snatching away his helmet and casting doubt on whether he deserved to be called a light knight. With fear overwhelming him, the commander casts aside any sense of pride and desperately pleads for mercy, ready to promise anything if it means he might be spared. Maintaining his composure, notes that his tale of vengeance remains unfinished. A surge of fear swept through the commander as he lifted his gaze, the foreboding words echoing in his mind. He went on to remember the time his teammate, who had been treated unfairly, was shunned by others and left without job opportunities because of the powerful reach of the Jew family. In the memory, his friend stands isolated as the crowd turns against him, holding him responsible for angering the influential guild. Crushed by hopelessness, the man's anger intensified as he found himself ensnared by widespread corruption. Recalled gathering funds with his friends to offer assistance, but when they arrived at his apartment, no one answered the door. As the flashback ended, it became clear that they had not arrived in time to stop the disaster from happening. In the present moment, traps the commander's sword beneath his foot, transforming his earlier inquiry about mercy into a menacing warning. The knight, having suffered defeat, pleads for mercy by vowing loyalty and pledging to disclose every hidden secret of the guild. Seemed to weigh the proposal carefully, while the commander, noticing a potential opportunity, quietly devised a final, desperate assault. Remained relentless, swiftly putting an end to the commander's last attempt at survival with one smooth and decisive motion. With an icy tone, he let the fallen knight know that service to him could only continue beyond the grave. King advanced to a higher level, acquiring additional abilities along the way. In his demon form, his twin materialized through a summoning. He comes to understand that he lost the chance to gain experience because he did not participate in the tasks his servant completed. He asked his demon servant, Pondi, for an explanation about why the experience points had disappeared. Pondi hesitantly reveals that he has found himself in a troublesome predicament. Pondi faced off against a pair of people, channeling an unusual energy to challenge them. One member of the group experiences a negative outcome. A figure known as a level 4 assassin, suddenly stepped in to change the course of events. Shows no concern for the broad effects of his actions. Pondi cautioned not to get involved with his master. Wondered whether King had a hand in the situation, feeling suspicious that a new member might be involved. An hour earlier, the assassin launched a surprise attack on. With one forceful push, the assassin hurled straight through the window of his own apartment. Glass fragments scattered through the air when tumbled from the towering building, a result of the unexpected attack. He remembered losing consciousness in an instant, even though he was known for his toughness as a tank-class adventurer. opened his eyes to discover he was lying in an empty, deserted parking lot, completely vulnerable to the person who had captured him. The loyal demon servant of King appeared at the location, his attention captured by the recent commotion. The demon servant sprang toward the assassin with purple hair, aiming to strike her with a powerful attack. Pondy felt a surge of disbelief as he watched his opponent move with astonishing speed, quickly understanding that this fighter was even swifter than his own master. Moved swiftly out of harm's way, causing the demon to slam into the hard concrete below. The assassin suddenly materialized behind Pondy, his hand radiating with a vibrant energy as he himself for a quick retaliation. A sudden surge of wind magic swept through the parking lot as the assassin released a powerful attack. He demonstrated his mastery by unleashing wind magic, summoning the force of Tower Gale, a formidable and accurate strike. Pondy swiftly evades each of the unseen gusts that come hurtling toward him in rapid succession. The demon servant sensed the threat at the last possible moment and swiftly moved aside, narrowly avoiding the invisible blades. He touches down with confidence, skillfully avoiding the assassin's first attack. Stood in disbelief, unable to comprehend how his adversary had detected an attack meant to be invisible. Pondy explained that his vision had not caught the attack, yet a subtle trace of magical energy alerted him, prompting him to remain vigilant. He remembers an earlier lesson, when his master outsmarted him with clever tricks during a situation much like this one. The assassin brushed off Pondy's prediction, convinced it was just a lucky guess, and moved closer, preparing to attack head-on. Pondy countered the oncoming attack by launching a forceful kick, causing the concrete beneath their feet to crack and break apart from the sheer force of the collision. The assassin responds by launching a quick, forceful kick in return. The impact of the strike hurled the demon servant backward in a stumbling retreat. Pondy soared through the sky before slamming forcefully into a concrete pillar. He crashes onto the floor, briefly overwhelmed by how quickly the assassin moved. Before he has a chance to regain his balance, the assassin rushes forward, unleashing a powerful blow that crackles with energy. Pondy soon understands that his reactions are not quick enough to defend himself, and he is restricted from unleashing his full demon abilities. The assassin, showing no sign of stopping, channels the wind's power once more, preparing to unleash another fierce assault. A powerful surge of wind, shaped like an enormous blade, bursts from him and rips through the chaos of the battlefield. The demon's eyes grew wide with surprise, as he understood there was no escape for him now. With a powerful impact, the assault smashes through the air, breaking the surrounding glass and transforming the area into a somber aftermath. The demon's servant sprawled motionless across the concrete floor, the assassin's strike having landed with deadly precision. He burns with anger, convinced that he has let down his master by not keeping his master's friend safe. The assassin towered above him, demonstrating that the unseen weapon concealed even more unexpected abilities. Without warning, a system alert appeared, bestowing upon him a fresh ability, the power to summon his master into battle instead of being summoned himself. The assassin's eyes gleamed with wicked intent as he advanced to deliver the final blow. Summoning his remaining energy, the demon servant used his special ability to reach out to his master. Crimson energy swirled around him while he expressed regret for what he believed was his own mistake. The assassin gazes in bewilderment at the vacant space, struggling to comprehend how his target disappeared without a trace. He looked over and saw that King had suddenly materialized on the other side of the lot, looming above his friend. The assassin stood frozen in disbelief, struggling to comprehend how his target had moved with such incredible speed that his eyes failed to follow their motion. Examined his friend's state with a frosty gaze, silently wondering how someone known for resilience could have been overcome so quickly. His friend pointed out that his survival during the ambush was only possible because young King's servant had shown up just in time. The assassin immediately realizes who the newcomer is, and with a self-satisfied grin, observes that his next victim has conveniently walked right into his grasp. With one curt motion, King effortlessly quiets the assassin, leaving no doubt about his authority in the room. The assassin's self-assurance crumbled beneath a surge of uncontrollable fury, sparked by the open display of disrespect. He instructed his demon servant to guide his friend to a secure place, assuring them that he would tend to their wounds afterward. Planted his foot firmly on the ground, energy surging around him as he himself to confront the assassin without any help. The assassin sprang into action, launching a swift kick that shot toward his intended victim with incredible speed. Fueled by anger at his rival's unshaken composure, the assassin launched a fierce punch crackling with energy. A dazzling burst of light filled the air when King's caution was answered by overwhelming strength. His powerful punch landed squarely, causing the assassin's features to twist in pain. He was launched through the air, utterly overwhelmed by the surprising force behind the strike. The assassin crashed down onto the hard concrete, the force of his landing cracking the floor below. As he struggled to rise, pushing himself up on one knee from the broken ground, uncertainty replaced his usual self-assurance. Covered in blood and bruises, he gazes ahead in shock, the confidence he once had now utterly gone. He desperately searches his memory, quickly coming to the conclusion that this unfamiliar combatant is far from a typical adventurer. With no other options left, the assassin realizes the moment has come to unleash their true strength and engage in the battle with full determination. Moved with lightning speed, bridging the gap between them and striking with a forceful kick before the other could react. The assassin freezes in disbelief, his mind struggling to grasp how swiftly his adversary moved. A wicked smile forms on his lips, while he unveils that everything had been orchestrated according to his scheme. The assassin unleashed his ambush, causing sharp bursts of energy to shoot up from the earth and pin his intended victim in place. The binding spell ignited with a sudden burst of light, its magic crafted to fully immobilize. The assassin grinned with satisfaction, certain that his energy restraints had completely immobilized his opponent. With an air of superiority, he began to explain to his defeated enemy that real victory comes from careful planning rather than sheer strength. However, his confident expression soon shifted to anxious uncertainty when he realized his scheme was starting to fall apart. A sudden burst of radiant golden light exploded from King, completely breaking the assassin's resolve. King slipped out of his restraints with ease, a shimmering, impenetrable golden light now enveloping him as a protective shield. The assassin's eyes widened with astonishment, unable to comprehend how his most cunning trap had been foiled, and he silently questioned whether he was up against a holy knight. His crimson eyes shone with intensity as he looked at the assassin, his words laced with disappointment and scorn over the assassin's lack of strength. The assassin's expression twists in rage, stung by the humiliation of being mocked. He dismissed the assassin as too feeble to pose any real threat, turning away and delivering a cold warning to his guild before departing. The assassin's expression twisted in fury, every muscle in his face betraying the burning humiliation he felt. Rage caused his hand to shake while he stared at his opponent, who brushed him off as if he was nothing, leaving his pride in pieces. Unwilling to give in, the assassin draws upon his last reserves of energy, preparing for a last frantic attack. He released his most powerful move, swinging with all his strength in an attempt to completely destroy his opponent. Destructive energy surged through the air like a tangled web, racing straight for King's back. King's face grew stern as he realized the assassin was making one final, desperate attempt. He remained motionless as a radiant golden energy surrounded him, effortlessly repelling the assault and causing the earth beneath him to crack and break apart. The assassin unleashed their strongest attack, but it burst into a wild, ineffective surge of energy. As the last wisps of smoke faded away, the battlefield lay with deep craters, yet his opponent was nowhere to be seen. Showed no signs of worry, confidently maintaining his defensive stance. The assassin's irritation grew as he realized his strike had failed to land as intended. Sharp eyes revealed that he was already formulating a plan to respond. The assassin, a fresh technique, rumored to be impossible to counter. King keeps his composure, his expression showing little interest. A rapid and forceful retaliation bursts forth. The assassin began to describe the unique abilities of his sword, crafted specifically to defeat demons. King casts a cold, piercing gaze at the assassin, silently challenging the truth of the assassin's statement. The assassin's weapon encountered a surprising end. The assassin's eyes widened in disbelief, unable to process the unexpected turn of events. King launched a quick, forceful kick that struck the assassin with precision. The force of the blow hurled the assassin into a nearby building. The assassin's surprise grew when it became clear that King possessed an additional layer of protection. Yang King delivered a forceful strike that hurled the assassin through the air. The assassin desperately begged for mercy, hoping that mentioning his guild's name would spare him. King showed no reaction to the assassin's warnings, his expression steady and unchanged. As his answer becomes clear, fear flickers across the assassin's face. King released a powerful wave of red energy that surged outward. A surge of energy bursts forth, spreading flames that consume everything nearby in a brilliant, fiery spectacle. The explosion's impact launched the assassin across the air, sending them flying uncontrollably. The assassin's body hurtled through the air and crashed against a faraway mountain, breaking off the summit from the sheer power of the collision. In the heart of the explosion, the assassin succumbs to the overwhelming force of the unleashed energy. From a distance, his loyal companion and servant stood helplessly, their eyes fixed on the column of smoke curling up from the far-off mountaintop. The demon's servant stood frozen in disbelief, suddenly aware that his master had not just mimicked his abilities, but had transformed them into something even greater. His friend incorrectly assumes that the win happened just because their levels were different, and goes on to describe how the game works. Wearing a wicked smile, the demon's servant feels a rush of excitement, believing his master holds the power needed to bring the demon back to life. Yang King stood triumphant while a system notification appeared, verifying that he had vanquished the assassin and earned additional experience. He is handed the assassin's ashes and discovers that the remains of dead adventurers can be transformed into formidable demonic minions. The realization strikes him. Pursuing corrupt adventurers offers a much quicker route to strength than endlessly battling through dungeons. Armed with a fresh plan, the focus moves to the foreboding gateway of a level 3 dungeon. A sharp blade gleamed as it sliced downward, targeting an unsuspecting victim. The intended victim's eyes grew wide with fear, as the realization dawned that escape was impossible. One swift, precise blow brought the clash to a sudden and somber close, with the outcome decided in an instant. Hovering above the scene of destruction, the attacker receives a small reward of 50 experience points for what he has done. Level 6 Hunter Yin felt disappointed by how rapidly the battle concluded, wishing it had lasted longer to be more fulfilling. A newcomer stepped onto the scene, his tone laced with sarcasm as he commended his second brother's dedication to getting stronger. The newcomer wondered aloud about Yin's reason for being in the dungeon, suspecting that Yin had little interest in gaining experience. Tong, known as a level 3 adventurer, questioned his brother about his habit of always concealing the faces of the people he harmed, curious if his brother did so out of fear of being haunted by nightmares. Dismissed the notion of nightmares with a hint of derision, instead unveiling a far more unsettling explanation behind his actions. Wearing a cruel smile, he reveals that he conceals their faces so he can more fully enjoy the chilling excitement of seeing the light drain from their eyes. Yen wasted no time, directly confronting his brother and insisting on an honest explanation of his real motives. The younger brother entices him with an alluring reward, the chance to pursue a level 5 adventurer. He presented his brother with a photograph of his upcoming target, wondering if his brother wanted to join in on the pursuit. The story shifts to the outside of his apartment building, making it clear that he has become a wanted individual. Within the room, takes a moment to relax as dedicates himself to vigorous training, determined to heal from his wounds. The king wondered aloud why his friend would rush back into intense training so soon after recovering from an injury. Told the others that this was how he recuperated, then wondered aloud about the reason King was not confined to a dungeon. Introduced a fresh plan, allowing his followers to gather experience on his behalf as he took a break. The setting moves to the lair of a level 6 devil, where his loyal demons busily carry out their assigned tasks. Pondi watched over the work with excitement, motivating his team to keep pushing forward with their tasks. Pondi lounged on a throne cobbled together from scraps, exuding authority as he directed his minions to increase their efforts. The revived soldiers, led by powerful figures such as the Mole King, Arbiter Argus, and swiftly swept through the dungeon floor, defeating every obstacle in their path. The assassin minion cast doubt on Pondi's leadership by reminding everyone that they ultimately answered to the same master. As the protest grew more intense, the knight minion known as Arbiter Argus approached, warning Pondi not to relax while the others struggled in the chaos. Pondi confidently pointed out that he had served their master longer than anyone else, insisting that this made him the best choice to take charge. The enormous Mole King, unaware of the ongoing disagreement, chases after a minuscule bug, unintentionally supporting Pondi's claim about its lack of intelligence. Seeking to end the disagreement, the assassin suggests holding a competition rather than continuing the argument. A competition was announced, aiming to determine which participant could gather the greatest amount of experience points for their respective master. A large group of level 5 imps rushed at the group, presenting an ideal challenge for their ongoing competition. Driven by a desire to demonstrate his dominance, Pondi sprang into action and released a fierce wave of flames at the oncoming imps. The horde fell beneath the force of his blazing assault, each defeated foe granting their master a surge of experience points. A swirling mass of demonic energy surged forth, erasing every imp in its path with one overwhelming attack. Refusing to fall behind, the assassin called forth his own legion of skeletons, sending them to join the bustling activity in the fields. He stood in awe of his transformed, demonic body, quickly realizing how much stronger and faster he had become. Argus, the knight minion, stepped into the competition, his lips curled into a self-assured smirk, determined to demonstrate his value to everyone watching. He plunged into the chaos, swinging his club and crushing the imps with swift, relentless force. The assassin suddenly materialized behind the knight, mocking him for paying more attention to stealing kills than to his own surroundings. The knight pointed out that the assassin had been using mana-draining attacks, suggesting that the assassin was trying to claim all the recognition for their victory. Wearing a confident smirk, the assassin makes it clear that his impressive abilities are matched by others as well. A focused stream of energy cut cleanly through the imp, serving as clear proof of the assassin's lethal skill. The assassin launched a rapid series of unseen strikes, swiftly taking out imps scattered throughout the battlefield. He demonstrated his talent by unleashing the invisible blade, a grounded slash that swept across the area with overwhelming power. A powerful strike tears across the crowd, wiping out a multitude of imps with one swift, sweeping move. The assassin displays a confident demeanor as he demonstrates his powerful area of effect abilities to Pondi, making it clear that his skills are equally impressive. Amidst the confusion, the knight minion seized the moment, forcefully stomping the ground to attract the attention of the last foes and lure them toward himself. He cast a cunning glance, silently appreciating how the assassin had made his job easier by bringing all the targets together in a single location. The assassin, filled with anger, pointed out that the knight had brazenly taken credit for the enemies he had defeated. Without paying any attention to the objections, the knight calls forth a massive column of radiant golden light that descends from the sky. The radiant burst from his holy power wiped out the last of the imps, causing a shower of experience points to fill the screen. In the real world, moved with quiet confidence, absorbing the constant flow of experience being sent to him by his loyal servants. He smiled slyly as he observed his minions fiercely vying for his approval, their efforts causing his experience points to rise rapidly. From the entrance of a swirling dungeon portal, his friend beckoned to him, signaling that a new challenge awaited. King walked over, intrigued by the group his friend had gathered for their upcoming adventure. He did not expect their third companion to turn out to be a warrior clad in heavy armor, already at level 5. He silently wonders about his friend's decision, murmuring to himself about how dwarves are well known for their greed. The dwarf caught wind of the remark and, filled with anger, brought his hammer down with force as he fiercely the claim. He announces with pride that, for dwarves, devotion to their friends surpasses even their desire for wealth. His friend offered words of comfort, insisting that the dwarf could be trusted, though hesitant, eventually conceded. He notes that their group is missing 2 people needed for the 5-person dungeon, yet his friend simply responds with a confident smile. His friend gestures upward, signaling that the last members of their group are about to arrive. A woman with vibrant pink hair cautiously peers out from behind an enormous rock, her face showing clear signs of surprise and embarrassment. The group's 4th companion turned out to be a giant archer of level 5, whose impressive height made her stand head and shoulders above the rest. Feeling flustered by all the eyes on her, the timid giantess swiftly slipped behind the rock again, hoping it would shield her from view. His friend chuckled and pointed out that, although appeared quite formidable, she was actually rather shy. Showed no sign of concern, as he turned his attention to inquire about the identity of their 5th and last teammate. A different person arrives, expressing regret for not arriving on time and explaining that an unexpected issue caused the delay. The group shifted their attention as their final companion approached, making his way over to join them at last. The newcomer turned out to be Yin, a level 4 hunter from the dungeon who pretended to apologize politely. He silently mocks the newcomers, certain that hiding his true strength has convinced them he is powerless. The friend presents Yin to the group, explaining that he is a reliable ally who has overcome many hardships in his life. Observed the newcomer carefully, noticing an unsettling presence that seemed far more threatening than what his reported abilities would suggest. The hunter greeted his friend with a faint, sly smile, carefully concealing his darker intentions from everyone around him. The dungeon portal opened to expose a dangerous level 6 enchanted forest, its swirling vortex hinting at the perils within. Now that their group was whole, the 5 adventurers strode boldly toward the entrance of the dungeon. 2 hours earlier, a series of unexpected events unfolded, setting the stage for this surprising alliance. Had already cautioned his companion regarding the unique threats lurking within the dungeon, and emphasized the importance of assembling a well-rounded team. His friend wasted no time in accepting the offer, expressing eagerness to gather a group and requesting the exact whereabouts of the dungeon so recruitment could begin. His friend's exit hinted at a mission to bring together the group of adventurers they had recently encountered. In the present moment, the team enters the dungeon and discovers that they have been transported into a shadowy, intimidating forest. The group comes to a halt, their attention drawn to the strange surroundings, while their towering archer lingers, visibly unnerved by the disturbing scene before them. The hunter expressed his discomfort with the unsettling feeling inside the dungeon, yet his companion brushed off these worries without concern. In an effort to lighten the mood, the towering archer presents the anxious hunter with a lollipop that is humorously large. Her cheeks flushed with embarrassment as she revealed that the enchanted candy served as her own special cure for nervousness. The friend made a playful remark, suggesting that her lollipop's enormous size could make it useful as a weapon. Without warning, King's face grows tense, his heightened awareness picking up on a shift in the environment around them. The group scans their surroundings with puzzled expressions, only to notice that their dwarf friend has vanished without a trace. In another part of the cavern, the dwarf's eyes sparkled with excitement as he discovered a concealed stash of precious treasures. He gazes in astonishment at the vast cave overflowing with rare blue crystal ore, unable to resist the surge of greed that now dominates him. He completely loses sight of his objective, and without hesitation begins chipping away at the precious crystals using his pickaxe. Venturing further into the cave, he comes across a vein of ore that is even more abundant, his attention captured by thoughts of the wealth it might bring. He moved further into the cave, lured by the hope of discovering even more valuable treasures concealed in its depths. While balanced on the edge, he catches sight of something unexpected, causing him to halt abruptly. He spotted an enormous collection of rare golden crystals, a treasure more valuable than anything he had ever imagined. Upon spotting the invaluable minerals, an unmistakable glint of greed illuminated his expression. Filled with excitement, he sprang forward, intent on taking the treasure for his own. He raised his pickaxe high and swung it forcefully, aiming to break apart the precious crystals. His tool hit the ground with a sharp, echoing clang, leaving the surface completely unmarked. He glanced downward, his face puzzled, while unusual luminous designs started to unfurl over the floor of the cavern. The dwarf's eyes widened with astonishment as he became aware that he had set off an unforeseen event. At the same time, the others tracked his path, while King observed that dwarves are always drawn to mines. A sharp noise jolted King's friend, causing them to flinch in surprise, while King stayed calm and simply looked in the direction of the disturbance. The friend noticed their lost companion far away, racing hurriedly across the top of a hill. Overwhelmed by fear, the dwarf bolts away, his cries echoing while he desperately tries to escape from something hidden in the shadows. A horde of tiny, luminous stone golems chases after him, leaving him no choice but to jump desperately to save himself. The friend expressed his disdain for the dwarf's fear, unsheathing his own sword as he prepared to handle the weaker enemies himself. The dwarf suddenly stops in his tracks, his attempt to flee halted by the towering, horned figure that appears above the ridge. A massive stone creature, known as the Living Wraith, emerged from beneath the earth, its enormous form towering over the lone adventurer. The friend's self-assurance crumbled into shock and disbelief as the hunter observed the events with an emotionless stare. The hunter seethes with frustration, blaming the dwarf for bringing forth an even greater danger and spoiling the dark scheme he had carefully devised. Seeing that his survival outweighed the glory of victory, the hunter quietly slipped away, choosing to avoid the approaching fight. A threatening green glow flickered from the entrance of the mine, hinting at the rise of a formidable force within. A thunderous blast shook the cave as it burst apart in a surge of violent energy. A massive explosion tears through the ground, leaving a deep crater behind and sending the adventurers scrambling to escape the sudden danger. The boss burst onto the scene with such overwhelming power that the friend was launched through the air, utterly unprepared for the sudden attack. The living wraith unleashed an enraged roar, its eyes shining with an ominous energy. A powerful surge of focused energy bursts forth, targeting the entire group with the intent to completely destroy them. Both the friend and the dwarf stand paralyzed with fear, unable to move as the devastating assault barrels toward them. The hunter suddenly stops running when he notices that the huge explosion has boxed him in, leaving him with no way out. As his friend spiraled into panic over the unavoidable assault, King remained composed, analyzing the circumstances with unwavering coolness. Advanced confidently, summoning a shimmering shield of golden light, and signaled for his teammates to gather closely behind him. The group huddles behind his gleaming golden shield, while the boss unleashes a wave of corrosive energy in their direction. A surge of vibrant green energy crashes against their protective barrier, battering it with unstoppable strength. King senses his protective barrier weakening as the destructive magic slowly consumes the shield's sacred glow. The force of the boss's assault overwhelms the golden shield, steadily dissolving it until only fragments remain. As the shield broke apart with a sharp burst, the force threw his friend backward, struggling to regain balance. The friend is sent flying backward, powerless as their last line of protection shatters under the force of the relentless attack. Comes to the unsettling conclusion that his abilities fall short of shielding his whole group from the boss's overwhelming strength. Reacting quickly to the situation, he unleashed a recently acquired ability called Switch Summon, causing his hand to spark with vivid red energy. Dark, shadowy energy bursts upward from the earth, coiling around him while he readies himself to transform the course of the fight. Both his companion and the dwarf stared in disbelief, swept up by the sudden and swirling force of the demonic magic. A sudden burst of red light filled the air as he called forth his formidable demon servant, who appeared with the strength of a level 5 creature. The dwarf gazes in astonishment, struggling to grasp how an adventurer could display a skill that seemed almost divine. Gave his new servant a cool and steady order, instructing him to begin tunneling an escape route for the group. The demon minion wasted no time, plunging into the earth with a burst of energy that sent soil flying in all directions. An opening for escape suddenly presents itself. His friend quickly encourages the group to take the chance and jump in, all while expressing concern about the fate of their leader. King signaled with certainty, silently conveying to his friend that he was fully capable of managing the situation by himself. The group hesitantly made their way through the shadowy tunnel, their anxious glances cast behind them in search of their missing leader. The hunter, with an icy demeanor, informs the group that their leader is giving up his life, because the corrosive assault is about to engulf the tunnel. King's mysterious words about gaining strength were revealed by his friend, leaving the dwarf stunned and disbelieving the accusation. On the ground above, a strange woman with horns silently departed, and in her wake, nothing remained of the boss except a shimmering pool of green energy. The lone hunter gazes out from a cliff's edge, taking in the destruction left behind by the blast. He feels a surge of relief at having gotten away, showing no concern as he coldly regards his old teammates as mere victims of bad luck. The enigmatic woman with horns studied the fading traces of green energy that remained where the fallen boss had been. A bright light shone in her eyes as she drew in the destructive energy, claiming it for herself. At the same time, remains resolute in the center of the crater, skillfully countering the boss's last assault without breaking a sweat. The hunter stared in shock, unable to comprehend how his prey had managed to withstand the attack and even shatter the powerful final move of a rare boss. He finds it difficult to understand how someone with so little experience could achieve something that seemed utterly unattainable. A system alert appeared, revealing that Yang King had advanced to level 6, while energy sparked around his hand, hinting at his increased strength. The skill window displayed that his once simple flame shield had transformed into a stronger and longer-lasting flame armor. The hunter gazed out over the barren land, his mind reeling as he tried to comprehend how his prey had gained such extraordinary strength so unexpectedly. The hunter's mind raced with confusion and fear as he struggled to understand how his prey had managed to grow stronger without battling even one monster. 5 minutes earlier, Pondi stood enveloped by a whirlwind of demonic energy, a wide grin spreading across his face. His followers towered triumphantly above the ruined field, scattered debris and fallen warriors marking the aftermath of an intense conflict beneath their feet. The group finished exploring the whole dungeon level, sending a huge surge of experience points straight to their master. The knight minion realized that a fellow minion had just been called elsewhere, which made it clear that King was facing danger. Pondi fidgeted with anticipation, longing for his master to call upon him so he could leap into the battle. In the present moment, Yang King fixes his gaze upward, bracing himself to confront the massive stone boss by himself. The enormous golem lifted its foot high, ready to bring it down in a powerful stomp that could obliterate him instantly. He barely manages to dodge the assault, while the earth beneath him cracks apart from the sheer power of the blow. Maintaining a composed demeanor, devised a plan by noticing that the giant's sluggish legs were its vulnerability. He swung his dagger with force, targeting the golem's ankle with a swift, decisive strike. The powerful blow forces the massive boss backward, fissures spreading across its rocky form as it struggles to remain upright. The massive wraith collapses onto the cavern floor, its heavy form causing the ground to tremble throughout the vast chamber. Sensing an opportunity, focuses his energy and draws forth a stronger, more formidable power into his grasp. He soared over the defeated boss, his sword sparking with golden electricity while he himself to deliver the finishing strike. Moving with astonishing speed, he swoops down toward the defenseless golem, intent on delivering a final, powerful blow. The charged sword collided with the golem's skull, sending out a violent surge of energy that tore through the air. Stone fragments burst in every direction as the boss's head broke apart, making it seem as though the battle was over. However, when the debris cleared, the boss reassembled herself into the shape of a horned woman. Though she appeared drained, her determination remained unbroken. Swiftly unleashed a punch glowing with radiant energy, striking her opponent squarely in the face. Landed before the boss and released a swirling surge of golden energy that spiraled outward. The boss's stone head split with a sharp crack as his glowing blow landed squarely against it. He summoned the full force of his Holy Light Flash ability, channeling all his energy into delivering a decisive strike. A devastating blast bursts forth, consuming all that stands before it in a fiery inferno. The explosion gouges a huge hole in the dungeon's floor, leaving behind clear evidence of its overwhelming force. The dwarf stares in disbelief at the unbelievable triumph, while his companion merely offers a knowing smirk, clearly expecting such an outcome all along. Stood triumphantly within the crater, yet an uneasy feeling lingered, telling him that something about the battle wasn't quite right. He considers how surprisingly simple the fight felt for such an uncommon boss, noting that, although it consumed much of his mana, it never truly challenged him. He glances downward and notices that all that's left of the boss is a bubbling pool of glowing green energy. The acidic substance fizzled away, seeping into the earth until every sign of the vanquished boss had vanished. The lingering green energy from the boss started to gather and swirl, causing pieces of rock to lift up from the earth. Without warning, a surge of energy bursts forth in a dazzling blaze of light, making it clear that the conflict is still raging on. The protective armor of fire enveloped him at the last possible moment. However, a system alert appeared, cautioning that his mana reserves had nearly been depleted. The corrosive force grew stronger, forcing his blazing shield to withstand more pressure than ever before. The powerful explosion knocks him off balance, making him fight to stay on his feet as he staggers backward. He notices with a pained expression that his magical energy is running dangerously low, and the protective fire armor surrounding him is on the verge of collapsing. As the explosion fades away, he discovers that a dense, toxic mist now blankets the whole area. From afar, his teammates observed, and one friend accurately deduced that the thick fog had formed as a result of the boss's assault. The realization of the serious turn of events settles on the friend's face, causing his features to harden with concern. He notices that the boss's behavior has changed, signaling a shift into a new stage of the fight, and questions internally why their leader has not called upon the minions for assistance. Notices that his underlings are gaining strength at an impressive rate. He moved carefully through the mist-filled dungeon, watching his steps with heightened alertness. He questions within himself whether the conflict has actually come to an end. He gathers his strength, focusing his energy into a powerful burst. The burst of energy swirled outward, sweeping away the thick mist. He observes as the assault fades away, swallowed by the surrounding mist. A mysterious silhouette slowly takes shape within the thick, swirling mist. He comes to understand that the assault served only as a distraction. A powerful battle of forces erupted. He carefully studies the strategies used by his boss. The horned woman's eyes shone brightly with newfound strength, exposing her real identity. King answered the attack by wielding his enormous golden blade, unleashing a powerful strike filled with tremendous energy. As their abilities clashed, he swiftly evaded her retaliatory move, sending his sword slicing gracefully through the open air. From a secure vantage point, the dwarf observes that the heavy mist over the battlefield has at last dissipated. King's friend, feeling a wave of relief, spots him standing strong and unscathed after the battle. King glanced at his experience points, listening as his friend mentioned that the rest of the group had gone to collect the ore that had been spread out. The perspective moves to the shadowy mouth of the cave, the very spot where the dwarf's desire for riches had caused them to lose their way. Within the cavern, the dwarf eagerly collected the precious magical ore, overcome by his insatiable desire for wealth. He boasts with determination that every last bit of treasure will belong to him, his greedy gaze fixed hungrily on the riches before him. His moment of triumph ends abruptly when an enormous foot slams down, shattering a crystal mirror inches away from his outstretched hand. The dwarf gazes upward in terror, realizing that the towering archer looms above him. She demands to know his reasons for her foot resting on his precious hoard. Her patience wearing thin, insists on finding out exactly what he is collecting from the cave floor. The dwarf's scowl faded, replaced by a puzzled look as he started to wonder about the unfamiliar place around him. Terror floods his face, his eyes growing wide as the deceptive scene crumbles away and the harsh truth becomes undeniable. The entrance to the treasure cave exposes a gruesome sight, a deep pit overflowing with endless piles of bones and skeletons. He suddenly understands, filled with fear, that he has fallen for the deceptive magic created by a famously avaricious king. He hurriedly turned his sack upside down, but instead of valuable ore, a cascade of skulls and bones spilled onto the ground. The dwarf sank to his knees, overwhelmed by hopelessness as he looked around at the haunting aftermath of the illusions his own greed had conjured. He realized that a strong enchantment had influenced him all along, distorting his ability to think clearly. He gazes up at, silently wondering how she was the only one able to withstand the overwhelming illusion. Speculates that her taller frame protected her from the poisonous gas that stayed close to the ground, whereas the dwarf's shorter build left him exposed and at risk. On the surface, Sfriend explained his plan to gather everyone else, eager for them all to finally make their way out of the dungeon. He begins to worry as his leader remains silent, gazing forward with an empty expression. He extended his hand to tap King's shoulder, trying to catch his attention by saying his name. In an instant, an invisible force cut sharply through the space separating the two of them. The friend looks down in shock, his eyes widening as he notices that his hand has been completely cut off at the wrist. Terror and bewilderment filled his gaze as he struggled to comprehend the unexpected assault. He glances over and notices that has unexpectedly crumpled onto the debris, showing no signs of movement. The friend stands in shock, unable to comprehend how someone so strong and respected could be defeated so suddenly. Holding onto his injury, he desperately tries to figure out who could have assaulted him, since he is certain the dungeon boss had already been defeated. The friend suddenly jerked back, startled by an unexpected assault that came from out of nowhere. A woman with horns looms above her injured companion, her hands stained with a strange, disturbing liquid. From above, the scene reveals the wounded friend on the ground, the horned woman nearby, and two more people watching from afar. The horned woman found herself intrigued by the strange, otherworldly energy that surrounded King. She gets ready to examine King, who is now lying unconscious on the ground. A massive hammer arced through the air, aiming straight for the woman with horns. The horned woman quickly moves in response as a hammer swings toward her. The hammer struck with force, unleashing a powerful shockwave that surged through the horned woman's body. The woman with horns released a powerful surge of energy, directing it straight at the person holding the hammer. The dwarf observes the events as they happen, appearing oblivious to the looming threat. The dwarf, along with the companions of the Yang King, fell victim to powerful illusions, causing them to battle imaginary enemies. Argus, a servant of the night, mourned his tardiness, regretting that he had not come soon enough to stop what had happened. The horned woman questions to herself the reason the dwarf remains affected by the illusion. An invisible strike rushed through the atmosphere, aimed directly at the woman with horns. The woman with horns swiftly evaded the blow, while another person dropped down from overhead. The woman with horns recognizes that the person attacking her is the towering archer. The dwarf rushed forward, letting out an angry shout as he swung his hammer with all his might. The horned woman stopped the dwarf's hammer mid-swing by launching a forceful kick. The horned woman remained unaffected, ridiculing the dwarf for his feeble attempt to strike her. The woman with horns herself to strike back, her palm radiating a bright green light. A strange green light washes over the dwarf's face, making his wide eyes show just how startled he is. A mysterious person sprang down from the branches, releasing a powerful surge of glowing green energy that lit up the surroundings. The woman with horns remains calm at the center of a wild, spinning storm, appearing completely undisturbed by the chaos around her. A mysterious silhouette drops down from the darkness, silently doubting whether their adversary can avoid the impending attack. A firm hand seizes a leg, blocking any chance of getting away. The horned woman appeared startled as she wondered aloud how the dwarf had managed to survive. A shadowy form seized the dwarf, stopping any chance of getting away. The woman with horns tensed as she noticed a threat approaching, her face tight with concern. A forceful blow struck the horned woman, knocking her backward as a thick cloud of dust swirled around her body. The dwarf detailed his unique defensive skill, making it clear that this gave him a strategic edge in battle. The dwarf demonstrated his unique stone skin ability, which offered him a short-lived protection against dangerous threats. Dark smoke swirled through the air while the horned woman stood triumphant, having subdued the night itself. She gathered a vibrant surge of green energy around herself, readying to strike once more. The description of her skill highlights just how destructive her power to cause rapid corrosion can be. From a distance, the archer watched intently, astonished that her target remained unharmed. The dwarf's eyes widened in disbelief as he realized that the woman with horns stood before him, completely unscathed. The horned woman looks down on the adventurers, her eyes filled with contempt as she stands firm in the belief that her strength surpasses theirs. She summoned a surge of acidic power, readying herself to bring the battle to an end. Sensing that trouble is near, the archer urgently alerts the others to the approaching threat. The woman with horns fixed her gaze on another target, determined to pursue her relentless hunt. She releases a powerful stream of toxic energy, sending out a focused wave of destructive poison. A brilliant beam cut through the dense forest, zeroing in on the massive archer who remained completely unaware that he had become its target. The blow lands perfectly, hurling the archer backward as a burst of green light erupts in a powerful explosion. With the archer out of the way, the horned woman shifts her focus once more to her main adversary. She stared in disbelief at the spot where her friend had been, finding nothing but a pool of blood and wondering if he had managed to make it out alive. Her bewilderment grew when she realized the heap of debris was deserted and was nowhere to be found. The horned woman stood amid the deserted battlefield, confusion clear on her face as she tried to understand how her target had vanished without a trace. Without her noticing, a shadowy stranger pulled the wounded companion away from danger, a dark and somber trail marking their path. The person who comes to the rescue turns out to be the hunter, astonishing everyone by intervening just in time to spare his teammate from a deadly fate. Their attempt to flee is quickly thwarted when the horned woman notices them. She readies herself for another assault, determined not to let them slip away again. A surge of toxic green energy burst forth from the horned woman. The explosion engulfed the hunter, who instinctively shielded himself against the impending force. The hunter's expression twisted with fear as he grasped just how serious the attack truly was. The destructive force bursts forth, spreading rapidly and consuming everything nearby. The woman with horns looked over the destruction, her expression revealing a sense of dissatisfaction. Yin-Yang King studied the scene carefully, attempting to discern the powers possessed by the woman with horns. Gathered his strength, readying himself to respond to the challenge before him. The horned woman wondered how Yang King had managed to advance in levels so quickly. A system alert appeared, announcing that King had reached level 7. Pondi felt a rush of happiness as they recognized their master's recent achievement, taking pride in how far they had come. Yang King comes to the understanding that the boss had never planned for an open confrontation. Instead, its real power lies hidden in something much more discreet. He realizes that ever since they stepped into the dungeon, a subtle toxic gas has been filling their lungs, gradually luring them deeper into its snare. A sly grin appeared on his face as he summoned a spinning sphere of energy, getting ready to use the boss's own trick as a weapon against it. With his recent level increase, he realizes he can now set the flammable poison gas ablaze, something that had been impossible for him in the past. The horned woman, driven by desperation, releases a searing beam of corrosive energy in an attempt to thwart his scheme. Her strike crashes against the earth, yet she cannot prevent the unstoppable sequence of events that has already begun. Furious, she releases a storm of toxic missiles, determined to overpower him by sheer quantity. Moved gracefully through the barrage of blows, showing no sign that her opponent's fierce attacks bothered him in the slightest. Dressed in his blazing armor, he charged straight at her assault, countering it with a forceful kick engulfed in fire. A powerful shockwave rippled through the cavern as his counterattack overwhelmed the force of the boss's energy blast. Rather than suffering harm, the horned woman's form surged with vibrant green sparks, her wounds swiftly healing before anyone's eyes. King stared in astonishment as he noticed the boss rapidly recovering from injuries, revealing an impressive power to heal himself. Fueled by anger from the assault, she summoned a swirling orb of acidic energy, determined to exact her revenge on him. A surge of energy gathered in his palm, swirling into a concentrated bundle. Before long, the young man came across a fearsome creature, and its strength radiated throughout the area. The girl informed the hero that his flames would be ineffective, as her poison would evaporate them and transform into a deadly gas. If the young man were to breathe it in, he would become poisoned instantly. The young man remained indifferent to the situation. He simply extended his hand and set her venom ablaze. Caught off guard, she found herself unable to believe the result, as it was far from what she had anticipated. In a short time, nothing remained except a vacant spot shrouded in swirling smoke. Yen surveyed the smoking crater beneath his feet, a clear sign that the fight had ended in his favor. He quietly acknowledges the experience points, signaling that he has apparently finished his mission. The horned woman appeared to have fallen, her strength fading away into the earth beneath her motionless form. However, her apparent defeat was nothing more than a clever trick. She skillfully cast a well-known illusion, pretending to be vanquished while secretly preparing her getaway. She silently promises herself to heal away from prying eyes, planning to strike at his defenseless allies once she is strong again. Her scheme for revenge is abruptly interrupted when a sudden burst of light shines in front of her, halting her actions. A brilliant golden snare suddenly bursts from the earth, catching her off guard. As she stands frozen in shock, it dawns on her that a sixth enemy has entered the fight. Before she has time to react to the sudden attack, a gigantic demonic hand appears, signaling the arrival of a seventh fighter entering the battle. The demon servant known as Pondi emerged and swiftly subdued the fleeing boss without any difficulty. The horned woman stood in utter confusion, struggling to make sense of the sudden appearance of these formidable new adversaries. Pondi released a powerful surge of red energy that swept through the area with overwhelming force. The powerful impact launched the woman with horns across the sky. A new underling entered the chaos, deepening the astonishment on the horned woman's face. The woman with horns stands on edge, confronted by the gaping jaws of a terrifying creature. A massive beast covered in armor flinched as an unexpected force struck its body. A mighty blow lands on the beast clad in armor, rippling force outward from the impact. The rest of the minions expressed their worries about Pondi's behavior, uneasy about how it might affect their master's scheme. The enormous beast engulfed the woman with horns, consuming her in a single motion. Carefully watched what was happening, trying to judge how the woman with horns was doing. Pondi turned his gaze toward, silently waiting to see what she would say next. His followers lowered themselves in unwavering devotion, silently accepting the power their leader held over them. The vanquished boss glared at her minions with contempt, expressing her disgust that they had chosen to follow a human. She proclaimed her preference for death over surrender. King, with an icy determination, himself to fulfill her desire, fully intending to silence her rebellion once and for all. The boss resigned herself to her destiny, preferring to vanish into nothingness rather than face the disgrace of submitting to a human. Rather than delivering the finishing strike, a radiant golden glow surrounds her, and confusion replaces her previous expression. Pondi and the rest of the minions regarded the latest recruit with disdain, as Pondi offered a sarcastic greeting to the newcomer joining their group. The former boss, who had once held her head high with authority, now knelt obediently at her master's feet, her every thought and action devoted entirely to serving their wishes. She lowers her head in a respectful gesture, openly showing her complete loyalty to King. A system notification appeared, announcing that he had reached level 7 and gained formidable venom-related abilities through his latest servant. He collects precious rewards from the fallen boss, such as a tier of venom orb and uncommon crafting supplies. The demon servant Pondi basked in the thrill of his newfound strength, proud that his abilities had grown in tandem with those of his master. His victory is suddenly cut short when an urgent voice rings out from the other side of the crater, desperately trying to get his attention. She hoisted the unconscious dwarf in her arms, mentioning that the rest of their team was badly injured. With all the healing potions used up, King took it upon himself to care for his injured allies. Despite his master's intentions, the knight minion is determined to take on the responsibility himself, driven by a strong desire to demonstrate his value. From within his gleaming armor, the knight releases a radiant surge of golden energy that spreads outward, mending wounds and restoring strength to those around him. The powerful magic helps to steady their wounds, but it falls short of completely healing them. While the group was catching their breath, they noticed that the smaller stone golems had disappeared from the area without a trace. Spotting a chance to improve his situation, the former boss, now forced into servitude, volunteered to guide his captor to a hidden stash of valuable treasures. Pondi narrowed his eyes at the stranger, convinced that her gesture was nothing more than a sly move to gain their master's approval. The knight used healing magic on his companion, and the serious injury began to close and heal. Yang King observed that although their lives had been spared, complete recovery of their missing limbs would require the intervention of a highly skilled priest. He assigned the towering archer to guide the injured safely out of the dungeon, and assured her that he would handle every expense. To ensure their safety, he instructs his loyal assassin to join them and act as their protector. Pondi showed great enthusiasm as he took on the new escort mission, leaving the responsibility of unlocking the treasure to the rest of the minions. King showed no concern as he let the frightened hunter who had run away leave, trusting that those who stayed behind were still safe under his protection. Lifted her wounded and unconscious teammates, struggling under their weight, while the assassin minion trailed behind them as they started to make their escape. The assassin wondered aloud about his decision to shield the dwarf, prompting her to clarify that his armor had melted away, leaving him exposed. Pondi dismissed the idea with a scornful laugh, insisting that demons viewed their allies as nothing more than instruments to serve their own purposes. With a single forceful blow infused with dark energy, he shattered the treasure chest, showcasing his cold and calculated skill. The assassin's gaze burns with anger as he becomes aware of a sudden, unforeseen attack. A sudden, forceful blow breaks the earth beneath, marking the beginning of an unexpected assault. He finds himself unprepared when a chain suddenly lashes toward him, hitting him with tremendous power. The force of the chain hurled him into the cavern wall, causing the surrounding stone to fracture from the powerful collision. He comes face to face with an adversary who uses the same surprise attack strategies that he does. Chains formed a tight web, pressing the assassin firmly against the wall and leaving no room for movement, trapping them completely. Let out a startled cry and quickly got ready to help her companion. The imprisoned assassin frantically signals to alert her about an approaching danger from behind. Stands rooted to the spot, fear gripping her as she senses a dark and menacing figure hovering close behind her. The person lying in wait turns out to be the hunter Yin, who displays a wicked grin that makes his dangerous intentions clear. Chains wound and around the assassin, trapping him and leaving no room to escape. Energy sparked and flickered around him as he fought desperately to break free from the restraints holding him in place. Observed as the assassin was apprehended, worry clearly visible on her face. The hunter steps into view, his face twisted with a menacing glare. A radiant light shone from the treasure chest as its precious items became visible inside. Subordinates stared in awe at the valuable treasure they had found. Young King appeared confused, as if something was puzzling him. The underling wanted to know why he seemed unhappy. Yang King expressed worry for the well-being of the others. He continued by outlining additional tasks for his subordinate to carry out. The colossal archer has fallen, overcome by the hunter's cunning surprise attack. The hunter, Yin, stood tall and imposing above the captured assassin minion, while dark, demonic energy simmered beneath the surface of the defeated foe. The assassin suddenly becomes aware that he has walked straight into a sticky trap laced with magic, having been cleverly guided onto the sole route available for escape. Ridiculed his opponent's efforts, explaining that the black tar trap he had created was strengthened by magic and could not be broken free from. The hunter discloses that he is actually at level 7, unveiling a dark scheme to get rid of the minion before launching a surprise attack on the master. Furious over the danger posed to his master, the assassin demanded to know how the hunter dared such insolence, yet Yin merely laughed off his outrage. The hunter gave a sly smile as he pointed out that although someone could conceal their abilities, they could never pretend to have a power greater than their own. A menacing energy suddenly flared around the assassin, transforming his presence into something monstrous and fearsome, forcing the hunter to question everything he thought he knew about the assassin's strength. The minion froze in disbelief as it dawned on him that the hunter really had reached level 7, leaving him confused about how the hunter had managed to gain strength so fast. Julian displayed a self-satisfied grin as he announced that his level had already reached 6 before he even became a member, subtly implying that he had acquired more than just the experience from defeating the boss. The hunter mocked the cornered minion, demanding to know what had happened to the dungeon's missing monsters. He admits that he had secretly drawn away dozens of monsters from the group, defeated them alone, and claimed all the experience for himself. The assassin suddenly understood that he had been betrayed and used his telepathic abilities to inform his master about the hunter's admission. The hunter let out a dismissive laugh as he himself to defeat the minion, vowing to share his parting message before the end. Suddenly dropped down from above, enveloped in a swirling aura of dark energy, bringing the attack to an immediate halt. Fixed his gaze on the hunter, making it clear he had caught every detail of the betrayal being plotted. The hunter's eyes widen with shock as he struggles to understand how a mere minion managed to call forth his intended prey. Fueled by anger at the insult, the assassin silently promised revenge against the hunter for daring to endanger his master. King moved his hand with a composed confidence, signaling that he was about to activate a fresh technique designed to ensnare his opponent. From the earth, enormous stone columns surged upward, trapping the hunter within a prison from which there was no escape. The hunter a magical assault, energy shimmering brightly around his hand. He hurled himself toward King, directing his blade for a quick, decisive attack. King swiftly avoided the blow, as his loyal minion suddenly materialized beside him. The hunter slams into the earth, the power behind his failed strike clear to see. A massive, foreboding building slowly rises from beneath the earth, bearing the name Lover's Embrace across its surface. The hunter boasted about his foresight, explaining that he had expected Yang King to show up. He reveals that the intricate snare he set up was intended solely to capture King. He extended his hand, triggering the next phase of his lethal trap. Sharp, jagged missiles erupted upward from the earth, increasing the peril that surrounded them. The hunter watches with astonishment, noting that still remains unbeaten. A surge of bright, dynamic energy spreads across the scene, indicating that something forceful has just occurred. A sudden burst of dust and fragments filled the air, stirred up by an unseen, powerful event occurring just out of sight. Found himself lifted out of the trap by a mysterious, shadowy figure with multiple heads. Understood that the absence of experience points was because the hunter had employed a fake target to mislead him. He examined the destruction before him, considering what he should do next. The hunter had expected this outcome and had already put a backup plan into place. He triggered a menacing trap, its energy sparking with a threatening glow. The hunter reacts with surprise to an unforeseen turn of events. He gestures toward something unexpected, his expression revealing clear astonishment at what has caught his eye. A formidable, mysterious figure cloaked in darkness rises from the trap as he steps forward to face it. A surge of deep red energy erupted from the minion, sweeping fiercely toward the spot where the hunter had last been seen. A wave of scorching flames sweeps across the surroundings, trapping the hunter without any possible escape. The force of the blast hurled the hunter through the air, sending them spiraling helplessly toward a churning, dark portal. He silently blamed the minion for making him use up one of his precious backup traps. His self-assurance crumbled when an unforeseen assault suddenly descended from the sky. A massive surge of energy crashed into the earth, just barely avoiding the cunning hunter. The force of the blow sets off his tar traps, causing thick, sticky tar to burst up from the ground in a messy eruption. The sequence of events persisted, causing his network of ground spikes to trigger ahead of schedule. A gigantic stone hand emerged, signaling that King had sent another of his followers into the battle. The hunter gaped in shock as it became clear that the knight minion had not only survived, but had also unleashed a wide-ranging attack, completely shattering the plan he had carefully devised. Panic flickered across the hunter's face as he understood that his traps had failed him, and victory was now out of reach. Just as he pivots to flee, a menacing swirl of dark, supernatural energy emerges, forming a barrier that traps him in place. The recently captured boss released a storm of luminous, toxic spheres, her gaze burning with newfound strength. The hunter finds himself battered by the poisonous onslaught, his form swallowed up by a searing green aura that burns and eats away at him. A powerful explosion of poison burst forth, leaving the hunter helpless as the assassin observed with unwavering attention. Calmly verifies the increase in experience points, making certain that this moment is genuine and not just another deceptive trick created by the hunter. The newly appointed servant lowered herself in a gesture of respect, silently vowing her faithfulness to her master, while the hunter's figure faded away, undone by her venom. King himself to confront his rival, focusing the last traces of the hunter's power into his palm. The hunter's soul was reshaped into a demonic minion, his face frozen in confusion as he struggled to grasp the reality of his abrupt change. The group of minions closed in around their latest member, while the assassin sneered and offered a sarcastic greeting to the once disloyal recruit. Stood before his gathered army of demonic followers, preparing to assign each of them their specific duties. Argus receives an important assignment that requires him to provide medical aid, handle transportation, and remain unnoticed throughout the operation. The rest of the minions are instructed to focus on gaining experience and tracking down rare creatures. Focused on one particular minion, signaling that he had a special task in mind for that individual. The selected minion stands enveloped in a menacing red glow that suggests a perilous presence. King ordered to shift back into a human appearance so she could secretly blend in among their foes. Receives orders to submit a misleading report while secretly collecting information from inside the rival guilds. The minion displayed excitement about the clever scheme, showing a strong eagerness to help execute the trickery. At the same time, a group of adventurers struggled against a powerful mammoth boss of level 10, fighting desperately to survive the fierce encounter. From a distance, an unknown individual watched the turmoil unfold, their purpose and identity remaining a mystery. A gigantic foot loomed overhead, coming down toward a solitary adventurer standing below. A knight steadied himself against an impending blow, silently pleading for someone to mend his wounds. The priest encouraged the knight to prepare his defenses. The knight called forth unyielding shield, causing a radiant blue barrier to appear. With a self-assured air, the knight proudly highlights his exceptional skill in defense. The mammoth strike landed forcefully, pushing the shield to its breaking point. The shield started to buckle under the overwhelming strength of the mammoth. The shield broke apart, hurling the darkness backward through the air. The crowd gazed on, their faces etched with disbelief and sorrow. Without warning, the earth gives way beneath the adventurers, causing several of them to be engulfed by the gaping chasm. The enormous boss swivels its head abruptly, crimson eyes shining with a sudden sense of alertness. An adventurer shouted and gestured urgently at a shadowy silhouette standing atop a neighboring cliff. Perched high on the ridge, the formidable head of the Jew Scorpion Guild surveyed the turmoil unfolding beneath him. The group of weary explorers lifted their gazes, a flicker of optimism lighting their faces as they became convinced that their rescuer had finally come. The guild leader, showing no sign of fear, launches off the edge of the cliff and plummets toward the battlefield, hurtling downward with the force and speed of a falling star. He delivers a powerful blow, his stone-like fist striking directly against the giant creature's skull. He transformed into a dragon-like figure and struck out with a fist so heavy it seemed to bend gravity itself. The massive mammoth reels as the powerful strike sends it stumbling backward, its huge form momentarily airborne from the impact. The guild leader seized the moment, his movements swift and almost impossible to track as he unleashed a quick succession of blows. The colossal beast's skull vanishes in a violent blast, bringing the battle to an abrupt and decisive close. A violent force rattled the earth, sending fragments scattering in every direction. A nervous explorer glanced around anxiously, afraid of getting trapped between opposing forces. Another member of the group tried to calm her fears by explaining that they were far enough away to be out of danger. Without warning, one of the adventurers was hit by an invisible power. The sudden outbreak of violence filled the female adventurer with fear, causing her to recoil in alarm. The girl and the figure clad in armor rushed away together, trying to escape as the threat around them grew more intense. An adventurer, wounded and exhausted, stretched out a trembling hand in a desperate plea for assistance. A massive blast shakes the earth, shrouding the surroundings in pitch-black darkness. The scene that follows exposes a gaping crater, its surface marred by disturbing, dark smears. A tiny, shadowy shape streaks rapidly across the sky. A tiny pouch rolled over the barren, fractured earth. A skilled assassin minion moved carefully through the scattered wreckage, silently advancing as his covert mission began. He thinks to himself about how ruthless the guild leader is, realizing that the leader's cruelty is even greater than his own. Perched atop a hovering boulder, the dragon-like guild leader gazed down at the newcomer, his words laced with a subtle warning as he demanded to know why the stranger had arrived. Coldly proposes inventing an explanation that places the blame on the deceased adventurers, accusing them of entering forbidden territory. The guild leader interrupted him, showing clear impatience as they insisted on knowing the true purpose behind his visit. The assassin, wearing a self-assured grin, announces his successful completion of the mission, confirming that their targets have been dealt with. The leader waved off the news, considering it trivial, and instructed him to deliver the message to a lower-ranking member instead. As the leader walked away, gave a sly smile, suspecting that he might be heading to yet another hidden rendezvous with the angel. The guild leader's reptilian gaze flickered briefly, a sharp light in his eye hinting that he understood more than he revealed. A powerful blow knocked a person off their feet, filling the scene with chaos and an unmistakable sense of aggression. A dragon-like creature towered over the area, cautioning others not to share the fate of the lifeless bodies strewn across the ground. On the fractured ground, a person desperately moves, reacting to a powerful blow coming from overhead, though the source remains hidden. Despite reaching level 7, the character still struggles to withstand the overwhelming strength of the dragon-like lizard. Feeling annoyed, the character wishes for greater strength and decides to work hard to gain more experience points. At the Angel Temple, an individual arrives, hoping to meet with a figure of great authority. A report surfaced, stating that someone believed to have survived 5 years ago had finally been taken care of. A request was made for a reward, with a particular emphasis on receiving an epic dungeon key. The request faced skepticism, because an earlier offer of an entire region had not been enough. The draconic figure began to clarify that earning more experience would become much harder once someone reached level 10. A devastating blow struck, forcing the figure backward in a staggering retreat. A commanding voice suddenly orders the attackers to halt. A dragon-like creature flinched as something narrowly missed hitting it. The assailant brings up a previous kindness the dragon once showed. The dragon recognized that it owed a favor and lowered its head in a gesture of humility. The dragon's face changes, revealing a sense of unease. A wide fissure splits open the earth in front of the ancient temple. A widening fracture exposes a secret corridor concealed within the wall. The dragon weighed the dangers of the predicament he faced. A mysterious silhouette quietly watches as a swirling portal shimmers in the gloom. A mysterious silhouette faces a swirling, shadowy portal that emits sharp electric sounds. A figure wearing a mask emerged from the swirling energy of the portal and moved toward him. He moved through the shimmering portal and found himself in a secret place. He discovers that he is now surrounded by an underground community, where rounded buildings with arched roofs line the cavern. He receives a caution regarding the regulations that govern the secret market. He nods in response to the warning and surveys the area around him. He notices how cleverly the market has been situated. The person wearing the mask began to describe what made the market unique. He picks up a golden key, which many people desire. He presents a small gift to express his gratitude for receiving the key. The masked figure demonstrated an appreciation for young King's keen intelligence. He proposes to help King get inside quickly, allowing him to skip ahead of the long line. Yang King notices a long queue of people stretching out before him. The masked figure reveals that the line has formed because people are waiting to receive dungeon keys. He begins explaining, without being asked, how dungeon keys work and what the different levels mean. A picture of a dungeon key appears on the screen. Details regarding standard dungeons are explained. The panel displayed information about higher-level dungeons and the creatures that lived within them. The features that define epic dungeons are explained. The mysteries and obstacles found within legendary dungeons are described. Yen reflected deeply on the endless possibilities for improvement that lay before him. The masked figure exposes an annoying flaw within the dungeon system. King wiped his brow, his discomfort obvious as he processed the troubling information. He notices something unusual about the dungeon tiers and asks for an explanation. The masked figure refuses to talk about the final tier, brushing off any questions with mysterious words. A sizable group of explorers assembled, drawn together by a significant occasion. The auctioneer signaled the beginning of the bidding for the dungeon key. A key to a level 10 advanced dungeon was brought out to be auctioned. An enthusiastic adventurer quickly offered the first bid. A different bidder swiftly increases the competition by offering a larger amount. A woman cloaked in mystery stood frozen in disbelief, while the competition for the key intensified rapidly. King's companion glanced at the woman, observing that she did not seem to be someone he recognized among the gathered people. Without anyone noticing, a dark red energy started to twist and coil around her feet. The sinister force surged outward, quietly overwhelming a nearby adventurer and causing them to crumple to the ground in silence. She landed a quick, invisible blow that brought down a second individual amid the busy throng. The masked companion cautioned King about placing a bid, having already determined that the dungeon's profit margin was too slim to be worthwhile. He expressed doubt about King's plan, pointing out that a level 7 adventurer could only realistically handle a level 10 dungeon. A fresh competitor stepped forward and confidently offered an impressive amount of money, securing the key while the audience exploded with enthusiasm. The masked companion let out a dismissive sound, watching as the triumphant contestant was quickly surrounded by eager adventurers hoping to claim a share of the prize. Without delay, the auctioneer introduces the newest advanced dungeon key, inviting eager bidders to compete for it. The auctioneer, with a flourish, proclaims that the advanced dungeon keys have reached their final bid. Excitement filled the air as the crowd eagerly awaited the unveiling of the next item. A key labeled as a level 10 epic dungeon suddenly materializes, immediately capturing everyone's attention and excitement. The audience murmurs among themselves, considering whether the high initial price is worth the potential benefits or dangers. The story recounts how an unsuccessful raid on a dungeon serves as a warning about the perils that epic dungeons present. A significant offer enters the fray, intensifying the struggle to obtain the key. The leader of Jew Scorpion strode into the room, immediately capturing everyone's attention with an impressive and lavish offer. The masked companion cautioned King, explaining that epic dungeons demanded tremendous strength. Several hours before, King learns that the guild leader is in the area. Wondered aloud whether the guild leader truly remembered him, and in response, he was comforted with words of assurance. The masked companion wondered about the guild leader's newfound fixation on gaining experience and reaching higher levels. He remembered how the leader had recently gone to the Angel Temple, an event that appeared to have caused this transformation. At the auction, the dragon-like leader confidently announced a high offer, openly inviting others to oppose his claim. His self-assurance crumbled when an unforeseen bid suddenly appeared, leaving him both shocked and seething with anger. A mysterious woman stepped forward as the challenger, her lips curling into a confident smirk as she observed the chaos unfolding around her. She boldly increased the wager to an incredible 1 million, leaving the guild leader and everyone watching in utter disbelief. Observed the heated competition, silently noting how the cost of the key was reaching unreasonable levels. His companion silently concurs, reasoning that paying such an amount for even a legendary key would inevitably result in a loss. Despite the mask concealing their face, the figure's demeanor suggested that the situation involved something deeper than just money. King's gaze darkened with a hint of cunning, betraying his ability to spot potential gains where everyone else noticed only danger. The draconic leader asserts his authority with a confident move, fully expecting to win. His sense of assurance crumbled when a rival offer of 1.5 million rang out across the room. He scans the crowd with a sharp look, noticing that the enigmatic woman is once more confronting him. The woman gives him a sly wink, taking obvious pleasure in how flustered he has become. The guild leader, consumed by fury, raises the bid to an astonishing $2 million. Without hesitation, she increased the price, determined to keep their intense competition alive. The competition for the item grew fierce, with bidders relentlessly raising their offers until the amount soared beyond $4 million. The guild leader burns with anger, certain that she's merely playing games with him, and silently promises that she will soon wish she hadn't. With a bold sense of determination, he placed a staggering offer of $5 million on the table, making his intentions unmistakably clear. The audience gazed in amazement, overwhelmed by the guild leader's impressive show of riches and influence. The guild leader flashed a confident smirk, silently challenging her to raise the bid, fully convinced that she would back down. Without warning, she pulled away, leaving the astonished leader in possession of the highest bid. He stands in stunned disbelief, struggling to comprehend how effortlessly he had been outsmarted. The moment he understands he has been deceived, his bewilderment swiftly transforms into intense anger. He angrily pressed the crowd for answers about her whereabouts, yet no one could tell him where she had gone. Standing tall above the crowded hall, he silently promises himself that he will track down the woman and ensure she faces consequences for embarrassing him. At the same time, King and his companion exited the auction hall, with the companion expressing regret over how things had turned out. The masked figure expresses regret, realizing that someone unexpected has disrupted their carefully laid plans. King responds with composure, expressing that facing the guild leader would have been difficult no matter what. When they separated, the companion assured him that any news of upcoming rare auctions would be passed along. A shadowy vortex of energy coiled tightly around a single foot. A woman admired King's skillful ability to influence another person. The group reflected on how their scheme had resulted in disappointing financial losses. The woman's eyes widen as she hears something she did not anticipate. A man wearing a crisp, tailored suit approached the woman with a challenging stance. The woman claims that the man has been listening in on a conversation that was not meant for him. The woman fixed her sharp green eyes with unwavering concentration. Through the lens, one eye appeared enlarged, shining with a fierce intensity. The man discloses that the woman is currently bound to serve demons, but only for a limited time. The man described the ways he took advantage of the circumstances for his own benefit. The woman suddenly understands what intends to do during the auction. Clutches a card loaded with a significant sum of money. The woman inquires about the legendary key to the epic dungeon. A smartphone screen shows that a transaction has been successfully completed. King believes himself to be an assassin of the highest caliber, convinced that he has reached level 10. Discloses that he has come into possession of the key. The woman wondered why the key was being sold at a lower price. A reptilian being watches the events unfold. The creature disclosed that the woman had obtained a special key with restricted powers. The creature brings 2 armored individuals to its side, enlisting their help. The guild leader's latest recruit felt a cold sweat trickle down his neck as he understood that joining his master on a mission meant risking his life. Their attempt to enter is halted when a system message appears, announcing that the dungeon is currently at capacity and sealed off to newcomers. The draconic leader seethed with anger, unable to understand how the dungeon had become crowded when just 2 individuals had entered. The recruits, still shaken from their ordeal, rejoiced in their newfound safety, their relief evident after barely escaping what seemed like inevitable disaster. Feeling defeated, the leader chooses to leave the massive dungeon behind for now, planning to confront his opponent at another time. In another location, young King spoke to his devoted followers, expressing gratitude for their effective trickery. Having reached level 10 as a demon lord, he assured his loyal followers that he would help them all grow stronger. He admired the assassin's remarkable talent for disguise, recognizing how essential it had been to the success of their plan at the auction house. With his hands clasped together, he himself to reveal a reward in recognition of their dedication and achievements. He bestows upon his followers the power to generate their own subordinates, elevating his minions to leaders in charge of their own armies. The minions rejoiced, thrilled by their new power to lead their own armies. A minion starts to question Pondi's whereabouts, curious about where Pondi might have disappeared to. Pondi had already launched into battle with the enemies, focusing on gaining as much experience as possible. A different minion began outlining the recently established hierarchy rules, emphasizing how these changes would benefit their group. Watched as his subordinates got ready to accompany him. He reaches out to get an update on what is happening outside the dungeon. Shares news that the guild leader is currently tackling his dungeon alone. Relied on his recently acquired stealth ability to keep himself concealed from view. He notices a group of monsters lurking close by. He comes across a gathering of unusual beings laboring together, inside a place that resembles a brain's interior. A miner with the head of a rat fixated its sharp gaze forward, exuding a threatening aura as its level became visible. The small details appeared to stir up irritation, carrying an accusatory tone. A sudden surge of immense power sends the miners scattering in confusion. A sinister, otherworldly presence revealed itself before the miners, boldly confronting them with an unmistakable sense of menace. The demonic figure recoiled in surprise, as an unforeseen assault caught it off guard. A burst of radiant, explosive energy swept across the area, illuminating everything in its path. A lively current of bright green fluid winds its way across the landscape. The sinister entity stands shrouded within a glowing shield, its form protected by an otherworldly light. The demonic figure's face grows resolute, its features set with unyielding determination. The demonic figure closes the distance, initiating an intense, up-close struggle. One of King's loyal followers noticed the sudden danger and quickly warned her fellow ally that they had fallen into an unexpected ambush. The wicked pair strikes back, sending a wild surge of shadowy power crashing toward their hidden enemies. The minion reprimanded her freshly summoned subordinates, who insisted that demons should never concern themselves with feelings of shame. She commanded her newly formed legion to surge forward, their overwhelming numbers quickly overpowering the creatures that dwelled within the dungeon. Observed with satisfaction as experience points poured in, a confident smile spreading across his face at how well his new farming technique was working. At the same time, in a different dungeon, a massive bug-like creature falls after a chaotic and brutal battle. After defeating just one monster, a knight from the guild leader's party gasped for air, clearly exhausted by the effort. The dragon-like commander towered above his fallen follower, his features twisted in contempt as he criticized the subordinates' disappointing failure. He grew increasingly frustrated with his team's lack of skill, feeling disheartened as they continued to lose members before even getting a chance to face the boss. The guild leader gathered his last group of allies, readying them for the ultimate test ahead, and insisted that everyone remain vigilant. A massive rat-headed creature with 3 glaring eyes appeared, recognized as the level 10 overlord commanding the dungeon mines. Yang King's followers quickly defeated the boss, allowing him to gain another level with ease. Having reached level 11, he realizes that his team is so strong that he earns experience points effortlessly, without needing to take any action himself. Showing no sign of interest in the feeble boss, he nonchalantly bends down and draws in the last traces of its energy. A whirlpool of shadowy energy engulfs the fallen beast, erasing every trace of its existence. After making sure the surroundings were safe, he found himself facing the daunting gateway of a level 11 epic dungeon. He orders his troops to collect every valuable item and resource, planning to sell them at the market afterwards. After finishing his work, he moves ahead, prepared to face whatever challenge lies ahead. The moment they entered, his followers rushed toward a gigantic beast, which was bound in heavy chains and imprisoned in a vat of burning acid. Experience points surged as his demonic army swept through the dungeon's creatures, rapidly increasing their levels with astonishing speed. A notification from the system appeared, announcing that he had advanced to the next level while his minions easily defeated their enemies. At level 19, shrugged off the reputation of epic dungeons, expressing disbelief that anyone could actually struggle with them. In another part of the battlefield, a member of the Jew Scorpion Guild let out a desperate scream when a gigantic hand closed around him, squeezing until he was crushed. The level 14 Minotaur boss ruthlessly tore through his party, quickly reducing their ranks. The leader of the Draconic Guild saw no other choice and stepped in, launching a powerful assault against the monstrous creature in a burst of rage. The force of his strike drives the Minotaur backward, staggering it with overwhelming strength. The force of the blow fractures the earth, forcing the remaining adventurers to stare, both amazed and terrified. Only 2 members of the guild leader's team had survived in the level 15 dungeon, and frustration burned fiercely within him. He scolds the subordinates who are still with him, feeling frustrated that he ever chose such unreliable companions. His angry outburst came to an abrupt end when one of his knights glanced over his shoulder with fear, suddenly aware that a fresh threat was approaching. The leader of the Draconic Guild eyed the unforeseen event with a wary and doubtful expression. A surge of intense darkness burst forth, signaling the arrival of an intimidating force. A towering minotaur stepped into view, displaying its name and level for all to see. A knight wondered aloud, trying to understand how the creature had managed to slip past the portal's mystical barrier. The guild leader quickly responds by conjuring a shield of energy to guard against the threat. The Minotaur launched a fierce assault that sent tremors throughout the dungeon. The guild leader responded with a powerful counterstrike that left a trail of destruction in its wake. Although the guild leader launched an assault, he found himself confused by how easily the Minotaur withstood the blow. The guild leader's face grew resolute, signaling an unwavering commitment to continue the assault. The Minotaur vanished within the swirling dust, casting a sense of foreboding over the scene. Above a barren and empty wasteland, a solitary person hovered in the air, suspended over a churning, shadowy portal. A confused-looking man occupies a temporary desk marked with the word Fee. A single foot moved ahead, casting a shadow of ominous energy in its wake. A young man walked confidently toward the portal and the desk, showing no signs of surprise or hesitation. A hand suddenly extends, halting the young man before he can move any further. The man seated behind the desk insists that a fee must be paid for using the dungeon. The young man wondered aloud why the tax collector was there, and tried to find out who he was working for. The tax collector proudly described the influence of his guild, and spoke highly of their master's formidable abilities. The young man wonders what might happen if he decides not to pay. The tax collector warns of a terrifying punishment awaiting anyone who refuses to obey. Maintaining a composed demeanor, inquires whether the tax collector means the individual he had just indicated. The collector's confidence crumbled when he witnessed someone who had protested before being hurled high into the air. The unlucky explorer vanished beyond the forest canopy, becoming a somber example for everyone witnessing the scene. A massive horned creature dropped down from the sky, casting an overwhelming shadow that left the frightened collector frozen in fear. The enormous Minotaur boss launches itself skyward, creating a fearsome image silhouetted against the rugged mountains. With a thunderous impact, the creature strikes the earth, causing the ground to split and tremble beneath its immense weight. From afar, observed while the creature settled on the mountain peak, its gaze sweeping over the land it now claimed as its own. The tax collector, overwhelmed by fear, shouts in alarm about a dungeon boss breaking free, convinced that disaster is inevitable for everyone. A broadcast echoed throughout the system, warning everyone of the imminent threat and instructing all adventurers to leave the area without delay. The Minotaur cast a menacing stare upon the crumpled body of the adventurer who had dared to resist the tax, serving as an unmistakable threat to anyone else considering defiance. The Minotaur swung its massive fist with tremendous power, smashing the earth near its opponent and leaving the ground cracked and broken. The creature then hurled a gigantic rock downward, aiming to completely crush the person targeted by the tax collector. The wounded lizard man lay frozen in fear, his body refusing to respond as the massive rock hurtled downward toward him. Just as the boulder plummets toward the ground, an unexpected surge of crimson energy bursts forth from an unseen origin. From a remote cliffside, a formidable sorcerer emerged and sent a spiraling surge of magical energy hurtling toward the chaos below. The story unveils her true identity as the level 30 guild master of Stardust, a powerful mage who watches the unfolding turmoil with a keen and commanding presence. Her subordinate expressed admiration for her impressive skill in hitting distant targets, convinced that her actions had protected the adventurer. The stared in confusion, suddenly aware that the strike did not come from her, since her own spell remained incomplete. Beneath the chaos, the tax collector stumbles in confusion when the strange explosion shakes the ground around him. The wounded lizard man lifts his gaze, his eyes brightening with hope as he believes that a mighty mage has arrived to save them. From within the swirling clouds of dust and scattered debris, a mysterious silhouette slowly takes shape. A dragon's scar-marked face emerged, its eyes sharp and watchful. Julian glanced at his guild leader, taking note of how untidy and worn out he looked, and spoke to him. The wounded lizard man wondered aloud whether Yin had been the one who came to his rescue. The guild leader silently reflects on how surprisingly capable Yin has proven to be. He questioned whether Yin possessed a concealed strength, but ultimately decided that it was unlikely. Yin was much more powerful than he appeared. He reassures himself that what Yin did was just a one-time accident. Julian glances upward, his expression thoughtful as he considers his upcoming actions. A massive object sped in Yin's direction. The Minotaur boss let out a thunderous roar as a glowing target appeared over its head. A hidden missile struck the creature squarely in the chest, causing it to lose its balance as it rushed forward. The Minotaur's eyes, glowing with a fierce red light, narrowed as it fixed its gaze on the far-off origin of the assault. Yin, the skilled hunter, himself for action, his specialized hunter gear enhancing his proficiency with traps. The Minotaur, filled with fury, sprang from its rocky ledge on the mountain and hurled itself at the opponent below. The force of its leap shattered the cliff's edge, sending fragments of stone and dust raining through the air. Maintained her composure as she released a net shot, sending a sparking arrow streaking through the air to cut off the flying creature. The arrow suddenly shifts shape, expanding into a huge, luminous net that sweeps across the sky. The charging Minotaur became trapped as the magical net surrounded it, forming a glowing blue cage of energy that held it tightly. The fearsome boss, now completely subdued and securely wrapped, fell gently to the ground before the hunter. An explosive trap suddenly detonates beneath the hunter's feet, sending a powerful blast across the whole mountaintop. Silently communicates with his master, encouraging him to transform into his formidable demon form to gain an advantage in the upcoming battle. The system interface displayed an overview of the powerful combat enhancements now available through the improved demon transformation. King declines the challenge, choosing not to expose his full abilities in front of the crowd. The assassin proposes a merciless way to handle the situation, yet King firmly insists that no harm must come to any humans who might have seen them. On the battlefield, Yin triggered a hidden mechanism, making enormous spikes burst upward from the ground. The Minotaur tore itself loose from the net, then vaulted effortlessly over the sharp ground spikes to charge straight at the hunter. The blow strikes with immense power, at the same moment that a second projectile from the hunter speeds toward its target. The hunter prepared his upcoming snare, arranging a bed of deadly, pointed spikes designed specifically to ensnare the monster. The Minotaur let out a roar of pain, caught off guard as multiple spears struck and penetrated its massive frame. The hunter calmly observed the minor harm caused by his spike trap, his mind already working out his upcoming strategy. The Minotaur's real strength became apparent as its level appeared, an astonishing 24, much higher than anyone had expected. The leader of the Stardust Guild activated her insight ability, allowing her to see through the boss's hidden level. Her subordinate hesitated, clearly uncertain, and pointed out the significant difference in strength, emphasizing that the hunter was outmatched by 4 entire levels compared to the beast. He likens the current predicament to the famous accomplishments of his master, yet quickly decides that the hunter stands little hope of success. He observes closely, her expression and brief remark revealing that she does not share her subordinate's doubts. The Minotaur climbs up the towering cliff with determination, refusing to give up on its chase. The hunter sprang back, skillfully luring the creature closer to a hidden trap, ready to unleash another lethal explosion. A sudden burst of flames tears through the earth as a concealed trap explodes with tremendous power. A massive explosion swallows the whole side of the cliff, hiding whatever result the dangerous risk has caused. In the wake of the explosion, powerful flames and energy surged through the scene. A blazing fist bursts out from the swirling smoke and scattered debris. The force of the blow launched the Minotaur through the air. An observer examined the hunter's strategy, noticing that it appeared straightforward at first glance. The Minotaur undergoes a dramatic change, his body swelling with fury as a surge of raw power takes over him. The hunter is launched high into the air, propelled by a powerful force. The hunter notices that the Minotaur is now moving much faster than before. The hunter gets ready by setting up a trap coated with a sticky substance. The Minotaur stepped forward, its foot pressing down into the thick black goo beneath it. The Minotaur fought desperately, trying to break free from the clinging grip of the trap. The hunter carefully draws back his bow, determination clear in his focused gaze. The Minotaur steadied itself, preparing to withstand the barrage of several incoming projectiles. The hunter observed the trap's performance, acknowledging its skillful design, yet ultimately dismissing it as inadequate for the task. A woman watching from nearby expresses her dissent, suggesting she perceives more to the circumstances than what is immediately visible. The hunter releases an arrow charged with a blazing enchantment, setting a fiery snare in its path. As the trap went off, the Minotaur flinched, its massive frame jolting as bursts of fire and smoke erupted across its hide. A powerful blast erupts across the scene, making it impossible to see what has just happened. The onlooker carefully observes the extensive destruction that has taken place, yet finds themselves yearning for an even greater display. The woman watching the scene realizes that the assault has fallen short of accomplishing their intended objective. From afar, the hunter observed the aftermath, watching as the smoke from the explosion slowly faded away. The hunter, feeling that the conflict was not yet finished, quietly cautioned his hidden companions to remain vigilant. Without warning, a dark, indistinct figure sped by, striking him with such force that he was hurled backward through the air. The Minotaur crashed down with a force that sent tremors through the earth, making it clear that its determination to keep battling remained undiminished. Harnessing the impact from the strike, the hunter shifts his energy and launches himself in the direction of a nearby cliff. He touches down with ease beside another of his carefully arranged snares, a large net stretched taut between a pair of trees. Unexpectedly, he becomes ensnared by his own scheme, trapped within the very web he created. Frustrated with his situation, he hesitantly asks the female mage to help him. The lips curled into a sly smile, clearly entertained by witnessing the once arrogant hunter set aside his pride to request assistance at last. With a sweeping motion, she releases a deadly haze, filling the air with a thick blanket of poisonous mist. Swallowed by the poisonous mist, the hunter stands firm, his unwavering confidence showing as he makes it clear to her that defeating him will not be an easy task. The Minotaur moves sluggishly, trapped within a dense, green haze of poison that saps its strength and clouds its senses. Summoning its strength, the beast launches itself upward, striving to break free from the choking fog and fill its lungs with clean air. The object crashed to the earth with tremendous force, sending out a shockwave that started to clear away the toxic mist. The creature crashed down with such power that it swept a broad area clean, yet toxic fumes continued to encircle it, refusing to disperse. A bystander notices a thick, poisonous mist rolling in, completely oblivious to the real reason behind its arrival. The hunter's real snare revealed itself as unstable black spheres of poison began to form and pulse across the Minotaur's body. The hunter exposed his real plan by setting off a gas bomb that caused the surrounding air to burst into flames. A massive explosion tears through the battlefield, swallowing the Minotaur in a blazing inferno.